Part 1. Struthiomimus Sprint. Struthiomimus, an ostrich-like dinosaur roaming the floodplains of late Cretaceous North America, stands out as one of the most exceptional runners among its kin. Its anatomy finely tuned for speed on dusty plains where quick footfalls could determine life or death. The limbs of Struthiomimus exhibit a marvel of evolutionary engineering. The legs, elongated beyond those of most theropods and capped by slender toes, formed an exquisite parabola of strength and grace, a design honed over generations for rapid pursuit of prey and evasion from larger predators. Fossilized leg bones reveal exceptionally thin shafts yet massive muscle attachment scars at the femur and tibia, indicating a blend of lightweight construction and powerful musculature, ideal for explosive sprints. As Struthiomimus bounded across sun-baked ground, its tail, held horizontally like a balancing pole, provided counterweight control to keep the body aligned with each rhythmic stride. The slender neck, terminating in a toothless beak, arced forward during the sprint, reducing wind resistance and allowing this dinosaur to peer keenly at prey and potential hazards ahead. Within its skeletal framework lies a story of hundreds of millions of years of refinement, where every bone and tendon contributed to a canvas of motion that blurred the line between predator and quarry. In the golden haze of dawn, Struthiomimus herds rose like mirages on the horizon, their collective presence an enigma of coordinated urgency that set hearts pounding within the Paleozool beneath their feet. Observed in flocks, these avian-like dinosaurs leveraged group behavior to enhance individual survival odds, racing together toward distant watering holes or termite mounds, sending vibrations through the earth that resonated like a muted drumbeat. The rippling effect of simultaneous strides conveyed information along the herd, a reverberating warning system that alerted members to approaching threats. From stealthy dromaeosaurs to hungry tyrannosaurs concealed in the brush. Fossilized trackways uncovered in Alberta show parallel series of narrow three-toed prints, each set spaced at intervals suggesting collective movement at a steady gallop. These footprints, preserved in sandstone, form patterns akin to woven fabric, linking the movements of numerous individuals into a single tapestry of motion. At such moments, the Struthiomimus herd became not mere scattered runners but a unified living wave, cresting and folding as one organism, each member's heartbeat synchronized with its neighbor's flurried pace. Beneath this vast display of collective locomotion lay subtle individual variations that whispered of specialized roles within the herd, as some Struthiomimus possessed slightly longer femurs or more developed pelvic crests than others, marking them as scouts or flank runners, whose responsibilities extended beyond mere speed. A scout, often found at the periphery, zeroed in on distant blurs of movement, using acute vision to detect the telltale glint of predator eyes or the bobbing ripples of a distant pronghorn ancestor grazing. This role of sentinel demanded unhurried vigilance until rapid acceleration became necessary, at which moment the scout's faster limb proportions came into play, sending it surging ahead to signal danger back through the herd by swift semicircular runs. Meanwhile, central runners, those with proportionally larger pelvic girdles, focused on preserving momentum, acting as steady engines that powered the bulk of the herd forward without draining energy reserve. Behind them, rear runners, often slightly heavier and with broader metatarsals, acted as motor supports, ensuring that the entire formation surged ahead in unison when commanded by an unseen urgency. Thus, within the immaculate uniformity of Struthiomimus sprints lay a hidden hierarchy, each individual contributing to a symphony of speed that resonated across Mesozoic plains. Struthiomimus's sprint mechanics evolved in a delicate balance between limb speed and energy conservation, where metabolic adaptation played a crucial role in enabling these dinosaurs to sustain bursts of velocity longer than mere momentary lunges. Paleohistological examinations of Struthiomimus bone microstructure uncover evidence of dense vascular canals within cortical bone, reflecting a high-volume blood supply to leg muscles necessary for rapid oxygen delivery and lactic acid clearance during extended running sessions. These vascular networks, akin to those found in modern marathon runners, reveal that Struthiomimus could shift seamlessly from roaming at grazing pace to an extended run when the situation demanded relentless effort. Scientists estimate that Struthiomimus top speeds could eclipse 30 kilometers per hour, rivaling the pace of modern ostriches, despite the added challenge of carrying a 2-meter-long tail and lightweight crest. This metabolic prowess hints at a lifestyle where foraging extended across expansive territories, requiring swift travel between feeding grounds and nesting sites to maximize calorie intake under the ever-present threat of predation. In the shadowed edges of riverbanks, Struthiomimus used its sprint not only for escape, but as a tactical maneuver in hunting small prey like insects, lizards, and bird-like creatures that scurried in the underbrush. When a dinosaur spied a moving shape, perhaps a beaked lizard darting between ferns, or a small mammal emerging from burrow shadows, it would lower its neck forward and lean its weight onto the balls of its feet, springing into a blitz sprint that closed the gap in mere seconds. The slender beak, now pointed with razor-sharp sensitivity, plunged toward the target, snapping shut in a decisive strike as the wind roared past feathered arms held aloft for balance. Remarkably, Struthiomimus feathers, though not preserved in every specimen, show microstructure suggesting both thermoregulation and aerodynamic assistance, aiding in maintaining high lunging speeds with minimal energy loss. These feathers, like living windshields, channeled airflow smoothly over the body, reducing turbulence during swooping runs across sunlit clearings. In that decisive moment of target acquisition, physiology, anatomy, and environment dovetailed into a pulse-quickening display of predator agility, the sprint morphing into a precise hunt that left no time for hesitation or compromise. Encountering predators presented a challenge that tested Struthiomimus's sprinting mettle beyond mere speed. They had to use terrain to their advantage, skirting around boulder fields and zigzagging through dense scrub to break line of sight. When an adult Tyrannosaurus approached in a towering stride, limbs like tree trunks powering the earth's tremors, Struthiomimus took a sinuous route, slipping in and out of cover, each bound timed to land on vegetation that muffled sound. Fossil evidence indicates Struthiomimus possessed elongated toe claws that acted like silent spades, gently burying weight into leaf litter and subsurface soil strata, leaving behind barely discernible depression. This stealthy approach to sprinting transformed every footfall into a whisper, allowing it to fade from view even as the predator's bulk thundered in the distance. The precision of these movements speaks to a nervous system finely attuned to proprioception, where each muscle contraction and tendon release occurred with crystal clarity, guiding Struthiomimus through peril with an almost supernatural grace. Across open prairies, the sprint served as both escape and migration tool, as flocks of Struthiomimus crossed lowland corridors to follow shifting patterns of fruiting cycads and stands of maidenhair ferns at the edges of seasonal wetlands. These epic journeys, unfolding over days and weeks, required bursts of sustained running interspersed with restful periods, a pattern mirrored in bone histology by alternating lines of slowed and accelerated growth. Struthiomimus fossils found along linear fossil trackways, stretching over kilometers, attest to these seasonal odysseys, each set of parallel tracks dissolving into faint impressions as individuals slowed to feed, then surging forward at a full sprint to reach the next stopover before nightfall. The need to traverse vast distances under sunlight while avoiding contact with larger predators and extreme midday heat drove these sprints to become more than mere reflexive escapes. They became integral to daily survival and population movement. Even juvenile Struthiomimus perfected the sprint in miniature, sharpening their reflexes with repeated bouts of false starts and short sprints among shaded shrubs, racing siblings to fallen seeds or insects disturbed by hoofed ceratopsians. Bone cross-sections from juvenile specimens reveal ossified cartilage arranged in a pattern that facilitated rapid muscular responses, similar to modern animals trained for agility drills. These young runners learned through trial and error how to gauge their momentum, adjusting stride length and footfall timing to navigate cluttered undergrowth without stumbling. As they matured, their limb proportions shifted, femurs elongating while tibias and metatarsals became more gracile, reflecting a gradual shift from juvenile exuberance to adult efficiency in the art of the sprint. Across eons encapsulated in fossilized remains and imprints, Struthiomimus emerges as a testament to the primal poetry of motion, its sprint a fusion of muscle, bone and spirit in a world where speed could tip the scales between predator and prey. In examining the slender leg bones, the feathered arm remnants and the preserved trackways, we glimpse a creature that lived at the edge of possibility, forever poised to burst into blistering motion under dawn's first light, or the hush of twilight's last glow. The Struthiomimus sprint was not a mere dash. It was a dynamic symphony of life itself, each rapid stride echoing through time to shape the rhythms of survival in a world long vanished, but still vibrant in our imagination. Part 2. Ornithomimus Flash. Ornithomimus earned its name for its uncanny resemblance to modern ostriches, yet the true marvel lay in its capacity for sudden bursts of speed that could turn a leisurely forager into a phantom streaking across the plains. Its long, slender legs were crowned by a series of elongated metatarsals that acted like biological springs, storing energy as the dinosaur slowed and releasing it in a flash of power as it rounded the next bend. The pelvis, shaped like a dish, cradled powerful leg muscles on either side, while the ankles were reinforced with extra bone growth to withstand repeated high-impact landings. Each stride seemed to catapult the creature forward, its lightweight tail curving gracefully behind like the counterweight of a finely tuned machine. When Ornithomimus paused to scan the horizon, its broad eyes captured distant ripples of movement, computing distances in a heartbeat before deciding whether to conserve energy or unleash its signature flash sprint. Along river valleys, the Ornithomimus flash served not only for escape, but for social display and courtship rituals. During mating season, flocks gathered near watering areas at dawn, their bodies aligning in elaborate formations before taking off in synchrony. Each dinosaur would step into the fray with a bob of its head and a flick of its feathered forearms, sending a ripple through the group. Then, with a sudden incline of the neck, a chosen individual would break away and sprint across the flat floodplain, trailing dust clouds that glowed silver in the early light. Other flock members followed, their synchronized running forming shimmering lines across the open terrain. Fossil trackways in the Two Medicine Formation reveal such parallel paths etched into sediment layers, a silent record of courtship sprints and social cohesive behavior that bound this species together through shared displays of fleet-footed agility. In the dense underbrush of coastal forests, Ornithomimus leveraged its flash to forage among tangled vegetation, weaving between tree trunks in perfect rhythm. When a small reptile or insect scuttled into view, the dinosaur would lower its center of gravity, pumping its legs with explosive force to close the gap in a heartbeat. Its toothless beak snapped shut around prey as its legs continued to drive forward, preventing any chance of escape. The flexibility of the neck allowed rapid downward strikes without sacrificing balance, each movement a testament to neuromuscular precision evolved over countless generations of predator-prey interaction. The feathers along its arms and tail, though not used for flight, stiffened like aerodynamic rudders, guiding air currents to stabilize the sudden turns that accompanied these foraging flashes. Across open savannas of ancient Mongolia, Ornithomimus herds practiced communal vigilance in preparation for the flash. They formed loose circles around grassy clearings, each individual positioned to watch a different sector of the horizon. At the first hint of a stalking predator, the lead Ornithomimus would shift its weight and spring away, a bolt of living lightning arcing through the group. Those closest would follow the flash pattern and the entire herd would surge into motion, their synchronized flashes forming a living wave that swept across the landscape. The ripple effect amplified the apparent size of the group to any approaching threat, while individual flash distances allowed each dinosaur to race clear of danger in record time. Track layers from this period display overlapping parallel grooves that mark the synchronous takeoffs, capturing the explosive energy of collective flight. Ornithomimus flash mechanics hinged on an intricate balance between stride length and stride frequency. The dinosaur's hip joints allowed a wider range of motion than those of other theropods, facilitating greater leg extension with each push off the ground. At the same time, specialized muscle fibers in the thighs contracted and relaxed with lightning speed, enabling rapid turnover of footfalls without compromising stability. Biomechanical models suggest that Ornithomimus achieved turnover rates that rival modern sprinters, pushing the boundaries of muscle physiology in a reptilian body. This coordination between bone length and muscle dynamics transformed the act of sprinting into a nuanced ballet of power and finesse, where every muscle fiber pulsed in harmony with each footfall. Nighttime brought a different kind of flash spectacle as moonlight cast elongated shadows across the desert flats. Ornithomimus flocks moved in ghostly formations, their pale plumage glowing softly in the lunar glow. When a pack of nocturnal predators emerged from the darkness, the dinosaurs mirrored the shadows of their attackers, flickering back and forth in choreographed patterns that confused and slowed the hunter. Then, in a collective motion, the flock would erupt into a unified flash, streaking away until the predators lost track of even the last flicker of their prey. Fossil evidence of bite marks on isolated bones in shallow graves suggests that some hunters chased shadows into exhaustion, a testament to the effectiveness of the flash as both escape and deception under starlight. Even fledgling Ornithomimus practiced the flash from a young age, darting through safe forest glades to hone their reflexes and leg strength. Juvenile trackways reveal tiny yet remarkably deep impressions spaced to indicate rapid bursts, followed by controlled deceleration within just a few meters. These early training sprints shaped the neural circuits for hazard detection and muscle coordination, ensuring that each individual matured into a master of the flash. Bone studies show that the medullary cavities of young leg bones were densely vascularized, supporting rapid growth and high metabolic rates needed for these intense training sessions. Through the lens of fossilized footprints and fossilized bones, the Ornithomimus flash emerges as a breathtaking adaptation woven into the fabric of its world. In the shimmering heat of midday or under the soft radiance of moonlight, this dinosaur transformed its environment into a runway for speed and grace. Every rapid heartbeat, every flicker of feathered limbs, and every arc of dust trailing behind became a tale of survival written in motion. As we trace these ancient patterns across stone and bone, we sense the pulse of life itself flowing through the legs of Ornithomimus, a flash of vitality that still quickens our imaginations and carries us across the eons toward the horizon of history. Part 3. Gallimimus Gallimimus was the epitome of speed and grace in the plains that stretched across late Cretaceous Mongolia, its long legs and lightweight body sculpted for continuous movement across vast sandy expanses. Each femur and tibia aligned in a nearly straight column beneath the body, minimizing lateral motion and maximizing forward thrust. The metatarsals extended farther than those of Struthiomimus, providing even greater leverage for propulsive force. When Gallimimus broke into its dash, it would lean its torso forward only slightly, permitting gravity to assist the forward drive. Its neck stretched like a guiding rail, while its head scanned for predators and prey alike. A long, flexible tail trailed behind, acting like a dynamic rudder that kept every stride true even over uneven ground pockmarked with fossilized dung and scattered bones of fallen contemporaries. Bone histology reveals vascularized canals that delivered a near-continuous stream of oxygen to leg muscles, enabling Gallimimus to sustain high speeds far longer than rival theropods thought possible for a creature of its size. In the early morning mist, the Gallimimus dash transformed the horizon into a living wave of motion, each individual a crest of sinew and feathered vigor racing toward distant waterholes. Flocks would converge under broken sunlight, weaving patterns of overlapping footprints that stretched for hundreds of meters. These trackways show not only the path of migration, but the bursts of acceleration and subsequent pacing that characterized the Gallimimus dash as both a travel strategy and a display of communal solidarity. Fewer large theropod attacks were recorded in those areas, perhaps because the audacious speed and unbroken motion of these herds turned predators away. Gallimimus did not simply run to escape, it ran as a collective affirmation of safety in numbers, each dash reinforcing social bonds and synchronizing group movement across the primeval terrain. When Gallimimus hunted smaller prey, it harnessed the dash in short segments, pivoting and darting through scattered brush as if it were a living arrow, felling any moving target that dared to cross its path. Beaked jaws opened wide as it sprinted forward and then snapped shut in a blinding strike at small lizards, mammals, or insect swarms. The curvature of its beak served as an interference-free scoop, guiding prey directly into its mouth without requiring the head to stop or the body to lose momentum. As the dash concluded, Gallimimus' feathers settled against its sides, smoothing wind resistance and allowing it to come to a controlled halt almost as gracefully as it started, a mark of evolutionary refinement in locomotion. Beyond hunting, Gallimimus used the dash to patrol territory boundaries with rapid speed sweeps that deterred interlopers. Individuals or small subgroups would break off from the main herd, executing record speed circuits that established auditory and visual territory markers. Their booming foot thumps resonated through sand and rock, signaling to other Gallimimus flocks that these plains were already claimed. Rival packs that sped across these zones would often be outpaced or lost in the dust clouds left in the wake of the dashing dinosaurs. Fossilized bones show healed fractures consistent with collisions between Gallimimus flocks during such patrol dashes, a testament to the competitive limits of speed-based social dynamics. The Gallimimus dash took on dramatic significance at nesting grounds where adult dinosaurs practiced synchronized speed displays to strengthen pair bonds and communicate readiness for mating season. Pairs would break away from the herd, racing side by side in mirrored runs that tested endurance and coordination. Feathered arms flared slightly to maintain balance, as each sprint emphasized limb coordination and respiratory control. The rhythmic pounding of feet was punctuated by soft calls that oscillated through the morning air, creating a soundtrack to the brilliant dash that bound each pair together. Fossil nests discovered near former watering sites contain eggshell fragments and juvenile footprints that match these patterns of paired runs, underscoring the ceremonial nature of the dash. Even juvenile Gallimimus engaged in modified dash drills among dawn-lit ferns and horsetails. Their bones show growth rings indicative of rapid seasonal development, linked to repetitive burst and recovery training. Young dinosaurs chased siblings in circular courses, developing coordination, agility, and the fast twitch muscles essential for the adult dash. The footprints of these juveniles reveal tighter curves and shorter strides than adults, yet maintain the same aerodynamic body posture, suggesting an innate drive to master the dash from the earliest days of life. Paleontologists studying Gallimimus dynamics have reconstructed three-dimensional muscle and bone models, showing that the dinosaur's body stored elastic energy in its tendons, with each step that was released in the next stride. This vaulting effect turned the entire body into a living spring, converting metabolic input into swift movement with remarkable efficiency. The structural arrangement of fibula and tibia allowed micro-adjustments mid-stride to absorb shocks and maintain momentum. These adaptations foreshadow the biomechanics of modern bipedal runners, revealing convergent evolutionary themes in speed. In the fossil record, the Gallimimus echoes through meandering trackways, layering across sediment layers and reflecting the intersection of survival strategy, breeding display, and juvenile development, all defined by the pursuit of speed. Each enduring footprint and every fractured limb bone tells a story of muscle power, skeletal refinement, and environmental pressure, shaping one of the fastest dinosaurs to ever race beneath the Mesozoic sun. As we trace these ancient lines carved in stone, we glimpse the electric pulse of life itself, racing forward in a dash that defined an era long vanished, yet still sung by the wind across the ages. Part 4: Velociraptor Burst. Velociraptor achieved its legendary status not through raw speed alone, but through bursts of acceleration that combined sudden launches with agile maneuvers in a seamless fusion of power and finesse. Its hindlimbs were sculpted to deliver explosive force, with elongated metatarsals and a lean tibia forming a precise lever system optimized for rapid extension. When Velociraptor detected prey, it would lower its skull and compress its leg muscles against the ground, storing mechanical energy that was unleashed in an instant burst of forward drive. This initial explosion of speed carried the predator across several meters in a heartbeat before it twisted its body on a single pivot, readying its sickle-shaped toe claws for the lethal strike. Each bone and tendon in its legs and pelvis worked in concert, propelling the animal forward with astonishing agility, while maintaining the flexibility needed to pivot and reorient its trajectory toward the next target. In the golden light of dawn, Velociraptor packs emerged from the rocky outcrops to hunt in unison, their burst tactics synchronized like components of a single living mechanism. Each member of the pack took up strategic positions around a herd of herbivores, using distant shadows and broken terrain features for concealment. At the signal, a low trill echoing across the valley, one raptor executed the first burst charge, drawing the herd's attention and momentarily fracturing its defensive formation. As the herbivores shifted to face the threat, two other pack members unleashed simultaneous bursts from flanking positions, cutting off escape routes. The sudden appearance of three streaks of movement at once overwhelmed the prey's capacity to react and forced stragglers into the kill zone. Trackways in the Jado-Chaupa formation reveal intersecting sprint marks that converge on singular kill sites, confirming that these coordinated bursts defined the pack's lethal advantage. Velociraptor's tail played a central role in regulating the burst by acting as a dynamic stabilizer. As the body surged forward, the tail, stiffened by elongated vertebral processes, swung out to counterbalance the rapid shift in center of gravity. This supportive function allowed the predator to maintain high-speed turns without losing its footing or momentum. Biomechanical reconstructions show that the tail's inertia provided a gyroscopic effect, enabling mid-stride adjustments that directed the burst along complex routes through boulder fields and narrow canyons. Feather impressions preserved in Liaoyangeng deposits illustrate that a row of veined feathers along the tail enhanced this stabilizing effect by increasing surface area and dampening turbulence during abrupt directional changes. The microanatomy of Velociraptor bones reveals high levels of vascularization in the cortex, indicating an accelerated growth pattern and robust metabolic support for frequent bursts. Circular growth rings in cross-sections of humeri and femora show alternating layers of rapid and slowed deposition, reflecting cycles of intense activity and recovery. This histological signature suggests that Velociraptor lived under constant pressure to execute bursts of speed, not only for killing but also for evading larger predators. The interplay between bone structure and energetic management underscores a life spent in perpetual readiness, muscles and bones tuned to unleash swift accelerations at a moment's notice. Night hunts brought a different dimension to the burst, as Velociraptor leveraged low light to approach prey silhouettes before detonating its assault. In the pale lunar glow, the raptor's large eyes gathered every glimmer of reflected light, guiding its initial approach with uncanny precision. When in position, it shifted its weight onto slender toes and launched into its trademark burst. The roar of wind in its feathers and the sudden thunder of feet across stone alerted the prey only after the raptor had covered half the distance. Fossilized Dinosaurs formations contain nocturnally preserved footprints that show deeper impressions at the start of the burst, followed by shallower prints as the animal transitioned into a sliding halt, indicating that these bursts spanned uneven nocturnal terrain with remarkable control. Encountering larger carnivores required Velociraptor to use short bursts of speed for evasion rather than pursuit. When outmatched by a Tarbosaurus or a pack of larger gregarious hunters, it would spring laterally out of the way, its agile body twisting on splayed hind limbs to avoid jaws and claws. This defensive burst maneuver combined speed with flexibility to carve an escape route through foliage or rocky outcrops. Bite marks on Velociraptor fossils sometimes show healed fractures oriented diagonally across the torso, suggesting that survivors of close encounters escaped through a series of rapid bursts and twists that minimized further injury. The neuromuscular coordination behind the burst was equally remarkable. Enlarged cerebellar regions visible in cranial endocasts indicate that Velociraptor processed balance and motor control with high sophistication. Instantaneous feedback from inner ear canals allowed it to fine-tune limb placement and tail position during the peak of its burst. Each muscle contraction and relaxation was governed by neural circuits honed for rapid responses, ensuring that the predator could adjust stride length and limb angles mid-sprint. This level of control turned the burst into a graceful dart of living steel, each movement both powerful and precise. Juvenile Velociraptor practiced burst drills in their nesting grounds, racing siblings among broken eggshells and shrubby ferns to develop the muscle reflexes and neurological pathways necessary for adult hunting. Their diminutive footprints, preserved alongside those of ancient mammals and lizards, show clear patterns of acceleration and deceleration identical in form to adult bursts, but on a smaller scale. Growth studies reveal that juveniles experienced accelerated limb bone ossification during this stage, reinforcing bone strength to withstand repeated high-impact landings. In these formative races among hatchlings lay the foundation for the lethal bursts that would define Velociraptor's prowess throughout its life. In the fossil record, the Velociraptor burst resonates through layers of broken vegetation, scattered bone fragments and trackway patterns that capture the ephemeral moment when predator and prey collided in a flurry of swift motion. Each stride etched in stone echoes a heartbeat of primal urgency, a record of the lightning-fast bursts that shaped survival and death beneath the Cretaceous sun. In tracing the arc of those bursts, we glimpse the very essence of predatory mastery, where power and precision united to create one of the fastest and most fearsome hunters ever to stride across the earth. Part 5. Protoceratops Scamper. Protoceratops, the sturdy frilled dinosaur that roamed late Cretaceous Mongolia, was no stationary grazer despite its formidable appearance. Its stout limbs and broad toes supported sudden bouts of rapid movement known as the Protoceratops Scamper, a burst of agility that belied its heavy-set build. Each forelimb and hindlimb comprised powerful muscles anchored on reinforced pelvic and shoulder girdles. When alarmed by the distant rumble of a predator's approach, Protoceratops would lower its head behind the protective frill, shift its body weight onto muscular hind limbs, and launch into a ground-shaking scamper that carried it across sandy plains in impressive short-distance sprints. These sprints combined sliding turns to navigate rocky outcrops with straight-line drives that closed gaps at astonishing rates for a ceratops. Examination of quill knob impressions on forelimb bones suggests that protofeathers may have bristled along its forearms, stiffening the limbs and streamlining its body during these unexpected bursts of movement. In the golden morning light, Protoceratops herds dotted the edges of ancient riverbeds, grazing on ferns and horsetails with little thought of movement until shadows shifted on the horizon. At the first hint of predatory intent, the herd transformed into a choreographed blur of scampering shapes. Adults formed a semicircle around the young while turning their frills outward like shields. With a coordinated surge, young dinosaurs broke toward sheltered rocky ridges, their scamper guided by adults whose prompt forward leaps created protective corridors. Trackways reveal a pattern of wide gates quickly narrowing into straight rushed paths toward cover. The protective strategy allowed the vulnerable to escape first, while adults deployed their frills and beaks to delay attackers long enough for the scamper to carry families to safety. Protoceratops used its scamper not only for fleeing predators, but also for competitive displays among rivals. Males engaged in head-down contests where brief rapid advances pushed opponents backward across loose sediment. Each step was measured yet forceful as the competitors sprinted toward each other, locked frills, and then scampered back to reposition for another charge. Fossilized paired frill fragments show scrape marks consistent with these encounters. The rhythm of advance and retreat mimicked a military drill of old-world armies, each scamper serving as both challenge and ritual in determining territory and social rank among herd members. The biomechanics of the Protoceratops scamper reveal adaptations for rapid acceleration out of nearly static postures. Protoceratops possessed specialized tendons along its hind limbs that acted as biological springs. As the dinosaur lowered into a pre-run crouch, tendons stretched and stored elastic energy only to release it instantly when the limbs straightened. This mechanism reduced the metabolic cost of repeated acceleration, allowing multiple scamper bursts during a single predator encounter. Microstructural analysis of fibula and tibia sections shows dense collagen fiber orientation, reinforcing these tendons for repeated high-strain cycles. Even on steep inclines, Protoceratops retained the capacity to scamper with surprising sure-footedness. Its broad, flat toe pads gripped loose gravel and sand, allowing it to ascend rocky slopes when pursued. Adults often led their young up these inclines to nesting cliffs, where offspring could shelter in crevices inaccessible to larger predators. Fossilized nesting colonies atop limestone mesas contain Protoceratops bones, arranged in sheltered hollows adjacent to steep drop-offs. These sites speak to a life history where the scamper evolved as both an escape tactic and a means of reaching critical nesting grounds. In twilight hours when shadows lengthened across the plains, Protoceratops scampered under the half-light to reach feeding grounds that lay beyond the normal grazing range. Using a combination of moonlit landmarks and sensory cues, they dashed across familiar terrain in rapid bursts between safe resting spots. Their vision adapted to low light permitted them to navigate with minimal hesitation. Small quill knob impressions on forearms may have supported a sparse feather covering that insulated them during these nocturnal dashes, preventing heat loss and facilitating quiet movement through cool desert air. Juvenile Protoceratops practice their scamper from hatching, weaving through the protective circle of adults in early morning drills, designed to strengthen leg muscles and improve coordination. Fossilized hatchling trackways record rapid turns and tight circles, suggesting that even before they fledged, fully juveniles understood the imperative of speed. Bone growth patterns show accelerated development in limb shafts during the first year of life, reflecting the energetic demands of these Scamper training sessions. This early development ensured that young Protoceratops arrived at adulthood with Scamper mechanics refined and ready for survival challenges. Predators adapted to counter the Protoceratops Scamper by timing their own lunges to coincide with the prey's moment of maximal acceleration. Velociraptor remnants found near Protoceratops bone beds display claw gouges at the precise points where a Scamper stride would land. These marks suggest that hunting raptors studied Protoceratops movement patterns, striking at the apex of the rash to maximize impact. Yet in many cases, the dinosaur's protective frill and the herd's coordinated scamper thwarted these attempts, leaving raptor packs to abandon the chase and seek easier quarry. Across ancient sands, the echo of Protoceratops scamper still resonates through preserved footprints and fractured bones. Each track tells of life's urgent bursts of movement under the threat of predation. As we trace these lines in stone, we glimpse a world where armored herbivores danced between moments of stillness and furious flight, their scamper a living testament to adaptation and resilience in a realm ruled by both tooth and terror. Part 6. Troodon Skitter. Troodon moved through ancient forests with a blend of caution and lightning reflexes. Its small frame supported by slender legs that allowed rapid lateral shifts and agile skitters between tree roots and fallen logs. Each foot bore a series of delicate yet sharp claws that dug into soft soil or leaf litter without producing sound. Beneath the skin lay a network of sensory nerves extending into the toes, enabling Troodon to detect minute changes in vibration and moisture beneath its feet. When a distant rustle or faint crack hinted at prey, it would lower its body close to the ground, then execute a sudden lateral skitter, covering several meters in a heartbeat. The motion resembled a living blur as muscles coiled like springs in the hips and thighs before releasing their stored energy, all at once carrying the dinosaur with breathtaking speed toward its quarry. In the blue light of dawn, Troodon packs embarked on communal evening hunts, emerging from rocky outcrops and weaving between cycads and horsetails. Their coordinated skitters formed seemingly random patterns, yet were underpinned by silent communication signals exchanged through low-frequency vocalizations and gentle tail flicks. A lead hunter would test the ground by shifting weight from one foot to another, sensing air currents for scent and vibration for movement. When it detected small prey, Troodon burst into skitters that zigzagged across the brush, disorienting insects, small lizards and fledgling mammals. Other pack members fanned out silently to cut off escape routes before converging on the stunned victims with precise pounces. Fossil trackways in fine volcanic ash preserve these intricate hunting spirals intersecting around singular kill sites, capturing the ghostly choreography of the pack in motion. Troodon's ability to skitter also served as a vital escape tactic when larger predators like Dromaeosaurus or Tyrannosaurs gave chase. Instead of a straight run, it skittered in undulating arcs, side to side, exploiting its low center of gravity and quick directional changes to evade pursuit. Its long tail acted as a dynamic rudder, maintaining balance while each skittering step kept its body angled for immediate turns. This unpredictability frustrated hunters accustomed to linear sprints, forcing them to overshoot or lose sight of their quarry among rocks and shrubs. Impressions in coarse sediment show a series of shallow alternating footprints, indicative of rapid side-to-side skitters, ending in a sudden dash toward cover. The Troodon skitter demanded remarkable neurosensory coordination. Brain case endocasts reveal enlarged optic lobes and cerebellar regions associated with processing visual stimuli and coordinating rapid movements. These neural adaptations ensured that every flicker of movement in the undergrowth or sudden flash of color could be passed and responded to with instantaneous lateral bursts. Combined with large forward-facing eyes capable of stereoscopic vision, Troodon could judge distances precisely in low-light conditions, guiding each skitter with uncanny accuracy. Its head and shoulders remained low and stabilized while the hind limbs delivered quick bridging steps across broken terrain. During nesting season, Troodon used skitter bursts to gather food for their eggs and hatchlings. Adults would skitter along riverbanks and lagoon edges, gathering crustaceans and mollusks before delivering them to nesting sites hidden among tall ferns. The rapid skitter allowed them to scoop up prey from shallow waters and retreat quickly to avoid crocodile relatives lurking beneath the surface. Fossilized crab claws found within ochreous sediment near Troodon nests show telltale scrape marks where claws were extracted amid skittering feet prints bridging aquatic zones and forest floor. Even juvenile Troodon practiced skittering from an early age, learning to navigate obstacles through repeated bursts of lateral movement. Hatchling tracks preserved alongside eggshell fragments contain tiny alternating footprints spaced to indicate short, frantic skitters as the young dinosaurs chased insects and tested their budding coordination. Early bone histology indicates accelerated growth in leg shafts and ankle bones during this period, reflecting the physical demands of skitter training sessions. Juvenile skitters sharpened reflexes and reinforced muscle pathways, forming the foundation for adult hunting and evasion strategies. In the stillness of the moonlit nights, Troodon's skitter took on a ghostly elegance as it patrolled forest clearings in search of sleeping prey. Its slender body merged with shadows, while glowing eyes scanned silhouettes of sleeping dinosaurs. It moved. It skittered silently over twigs and leaves, its claws producing no sound as each step was spread across a broad footpad. The soft insulative feathers along its legs and arms muffled friction against vegetation. This stealthy skitter allowed Troodon to approach within striking distance before lunging forward in the final burst and securing its meal. Across fossil records, the Troodon skitter casts an enduring silhouette etched into rock and ash, capturing moments of swift lateral motion that defined its life and survival. Each alternating print tells a story of life lived at the threshold between predator and prey, where the art of the skitter spelled the difference between feast and flight. In piecing together these silent tracks and skeletal clues, we glimpse a creature whose grace and speed unfolded in sideways bursts of energy that still echo through the hallowed stones of deep time. Part 7. Oviraptor Glide. Oviraptor possessed a blend of robust jaws and delicate, pugnacious feathers that transformed its forelimbs into gliding surfaces, allowing it to traverse rocky outcrops and forest clearings with graceful airborne excursions. Its arms, equipped with long quill feathers extending well beyond the hand bones, formed a broad wing-like surface when fully extended. When the dinosaur leaped from a low perch, the feathers fanned out into an elegant airfoil shape, capturing updrafts created by the rising desert heat or forest floor turbulence. With a subtle thrust of its powerful hind limbs, the Oviraptor launched into a controlled glide that carried it across distances of up to 20 meters, landing with soft footfalls on the opposite ledge. Detailed analysis of quill knob impressions on fossilized forearm bones reveals the precise attachment points of feathers, indicating a gliding apparatus finely tuned by evolution for short bursts of aerial movement rather than sustained flight. In nesting grounds among sandstone pinnacles, Oviraptor used its glide to inspect neighboring nests and search for nutrient-rich eggshell fragments to crush with its toothless beak. From the rim of its own nest mound, the dinosaur would peer across the valley floor, gauging the distance to a rival nest by triangulating the rocky landmarks below. With measured body lean and synchronized wing extension, it would spring forward, riding the thermal currents that skimmed canyon walls. The glide served a dual purpose as a rapid reconnaissance tool and a stealthy approach strategy, allowing Oviraptor to land near rival nests without warning. Fossil eggshell accumulations and partial Oviraptor skeletons buried beneath overturned nests hint at the intense competition and clandestine glides that shaped reproductive strategies in these arid ecosystems. During the monsoon season in coastal forests, Oviraptor perfected the glide by exploiting wind gusts, funneling through narrow ravines, huddling beneath rock overhangs when storms approached. These dinosaurs watched for shifts in wind direction and intensity. As gusts rushed downhill, they would step forward, extend their wing feathers, and allow the wind to lift their body weight for moments of silent gliding through rain-slick foliage. This airborne movement enabled them to cross flooded creek beds and treacherous swampy ground without wetting their plumage or risking leg bone damage. Impressions of leaf litter and mudstone beneath fossilized wing bones point to repeated storm glides, revealing a hidden chapter of Oviraptor's life written in the patterns of seasonal winds and gliding tracks. In the dappled light of dawn, Oviraptor families engaged in learning glides under adult supervision, young dinosaurs practicing extensions of their forelimbs on fallen logs before attempting their first aerial launches. Juvenile quill feathers sprouted early on the forearm bones, creating small proto-wings that served as stabilizers during ground sprints. As hatchlings matured, these feathers lengthened and stiff-stemmed, enhancing the lift generated during glides. Fossilized trackways of hatchling and adult pairs show parallel impressions where young followed the glide paths of their parents, landing just a few meters below before scampering back up to try again. These training sessions honed proprioception and developed the neuromuscular coordination necessary for safe and controlled gliding in challenging terrain. The Oviraptor glide also played a pivotal role in evading predators. When a roaming tyrannosaur or a pack of dromaeosaurs closed in on a foraging group, the Oviraptor would burst into a short sprint before vaulting off the edge of a rock ledge and unfolding its wing feathers. The resulting glide carried it out of reach of heavy jaws and sharp claws, often depositing the dinosaur on ledges too narrow or steep for larger predators to access. Shadowed track sites in layered sandstone reveal sets of troodontiid and dromaeosaur prints that abruptly stop at cliff edges while Oviraptor glide landings continue on adjacent ledges. This pattern speaks to repeated escapes where gliding under duress saved these creatures from becoming meals. When courtship season arrived, Oviraptor pairs incorporated glides into their display rituals. Males climbed to the highest accessible points on rocky crags and spread their forelimb feathers into a fan shape. With a deep rhythmic call, they leaped forward in a series of descending glides, each arc elegantly tracing the contours of the canyon walls. The flared plumage and synchronized wing flexes showcased the male's health and feather condition, signaling fitness to prospective mates. Females responded with low supportive squawks and their own brief glides in parallel formation, reinforcing pair bonds through aerial choreography. Sedimentary layers containing Oviraptor nests often preserve multiple overlapping feather impressions and disturbed sediment from these mating glides, capturing the resonance of displays long vanished. In twilight hours, Troodon and other small predators attempted to intercept Oviraptor glides by lurking near likely landing zones. Yet the dinosaurs adapted by varying their glide paths unpredictably, twisting their bodies mid-air and tucking one wing to alter their descent angle. The resulting corkscrew movements made accurate interception nearly impossible. Fossilized gully fills show both Oviraptor claw marks and troodontid teeth punctures, but the majority of gliding individuals escaped unscathed, testament to Oviraptor's aerial agility and mastery of three-dimensional evasion tactics. Through countless gliding episodes, Oviraptor left behind whispered trails in the rock-feathered imprints, overlapping landing depressions, and displaced plant debris marking gliding corridors. Each trace captures a moment of flight's archaic echo in a world dominated by tooth and claw. In reconstructing these glides, we glimpse the tension between gravity and lift, between predator and prey, where balance and feathered finesse determine survival. The Oviraptor glide remains an enduring testament to evolutionary innovation, a silent dance over Mesozoic heights that still enraptures our imagination and carries us aloft on currents of deep time. Part 8. Dromaeosaurus Rush. Dromaeosaurus burst into life on the late Cretaceous floodplains with a potency that belied its medium size, each muscle fiber in its hind limbs designed for rapid acceleration and sustained bursts. Its femur and tibia locking seamlessly at the knee joint allowed it to spring forward from a crouch without losing a moment to hesitation. When this predator detected faint rustling in the fern undergrowth, it would lower its weight onto its elongated metatarsals, compressing its leg muscles into a living spring. In one powerful shove, the Dromaeosaurus rush commenced, its body lunging forward as though propelled by an unseen force. The tail feathers stiffened into a dynamic stabilizer, controlling every fluid twist in its trajectory as it closed the distance with those rustles with breathtaking efficiency. Each footfall barely disturbed the ground except for the most delicate imprints in fine mudstone, the kind that whisper of predatory intent rather than thunderous pursuit. In packs of 2 or 3, Dromaeosaurus strategized their rushes, with tactical precision coordinating movement through low brush and broken terrain as if guided by a single mind. One individual would circle downwind, the others would approach from flanking angles, and a final member would serve as the driver, guiding prey toward the kill zone. At the moment of attack, these raptors converged in a synchronized arrival, each initiating a furious rush that trapped unsuspecting Hadrosaurus in the deadly triangle of jaws and claws. The synergy of multiple rushes created a typhoon of motion that prey could not outrun or outmaneuver. Fossil trackways in the Alberta Badlands preserve converging scratch marks and overlapping footprints encircling bone beds, a testament to the lethal choreography of the Dromaeosaurus rush. The neurosensory coordination required for such a rush demonstrated remarkable brain adaptations. Enlarged floccular lobes in the cerebellum and highly developed optic lobes allowed Dromaeosaurus to process rapid changes in speed, trajectory, and prey movement in a heartbeat. Its inner ear structures detected the slightest shifts in balance, guiding instantaneous corrections to foot placement and tail orientation. During the rush, each muscle contraction and tendon recoil synchronized with neural signals to maintain perfect balance at top speed. This seamless integration of muscle and nerve enabled Dromaeosaurus to pivot sharply, without sacrificing momentum, landing itself alongside or even ahead of its prey before delivering the decisive. Vegetation patterns on the ancient floodplains influenced the tactics of the Dromaeosaurus rush. Wet season grasses grew tall between clumps of horsetails and cycads, creating corridors just wide enough for agile raptors to slip through unseen. Troops of Dromaeosaurus exploited these natural lanes by positioning themselves at opposite ends, waiting for herds to pass. As prey animals entered the corridors, the raptors would rush simultaneously from both ends, meeting in the middle like converging storm fronts. This trap formation left no escape route, forcing the victims into fatal skirmishes. Sediment analyses show layers of densely packed bones within these narrow channels, confirming that the environment and the rush tactic worked in unison to secure successful hunts. When threatened by larger predators such as tyrannosaurs, Dromaeosaurus reversed the rush into a defensive maneuver, launching itself forward, then skidding to a sudden halt before pivoting on one leg to deliver a savage slash with its sickle-shaped claw. This combination of burst and abrupt stop created a shock effect that allowed it to deliver maximum damage before retreating into undergrowth at full speed. Bite wounds on tyrannosaur ribs indicate instances where a solitary raptor, backed by pack support, struck with such precision that it pierced thick integument and deeper tissues, leaving human-sized gashes that took the massive predator by surprise. The Dromaeosaurus rush thus served not only for predation but for survival in the dangerous hierarchy of Cretaceous megafauna. Juveniles practiced modified rush drills within the safety of nesting cliffs, honing their muscle coordination and speed control from an early age. Small foot impressions preserved alongside adult tracks show that hatchlings imitated adult rush patterns in miniature, weaving between sheltering rocks and fallen logs. Their developing limb bones exhibit accelerated ossification during this training phase, reflecting the physical demands of repeated burst and recovery sequences. This early mastery of the rush ensured that the young raptors matured into formidable hunters, capable of matching the adult stride for stride in the critical hunt for survival. The Dromaeosaurus rush left an indelible mark on the fossil record, not in thunderous booms, but in finely preserved scratch marks interwoven with distinct claw and toe prints. These patterns chart the predator's passage across ancient mudflats and sandy banks, each line a ghostly echo of a high-velocity approach. In some sites, successive rush attempts congealed into layered trackways, suggesting repeated hunts at favored grounds, rich in prey. Paleontologists decipher these silent inscriptions as evidence of the rush's central role in the daily life of Dromaeosaurus, revealing a world where swift, calculated violence shaped the balance between hunter and hunted. Through the study of Dromaeosaurus morphology, trackways, and ecosystem interactions, we uncover the essence of the rush as a multifaceted strategy blending speed, power, coordination, and environmental insight. Each rapid charge across the plains carried a story of evolutionary refinement, neurological precision, and pack cooperation, culminating in moments of breathtaking violence and efficiency. The Dromaeosaurus rush remains a testament to the ingenuity of predatory adaptation, a thrilling chapter in the saga of life's ancient contests that still resonates in the silent language of fossilized footprints. Part 9. Coelophysis hurry. Coelophysis emerged at dawn across the Triassic Badlands with a blend of speed and suppleness that defined the hurry. Its slender form, built for rapid movement over rocky terrain and open floodplains. Each hind limb featured a lengthened femur and tibia aligned almost like pistons beneath the body, allowing explosive pushes off the ground. The metatarsals acted as tension springs, curving outward at the tips to distribute impact evenly and absorb shock when racing across uneven sediment. As Coelophysis launched into its characteristic hurry, it leaned forward until its head nearly aligned with its tail, projecting a straight-line silhouette, primed for velocity. Feather-like filaments along its arms and tail would have stiffened during these runs, guiding airflow to reduce drag and stabilize its lightweight frame. The synergy of skeletal proportions and soft tissue adaptations transformed the animal into a living arrow, whose speed depended on minimal resistance and maximum thrust. In packs of dozens, Coelophysis coordinated their hurry with silent cues of tail flicks and low chirps that set off rippling waves of motion across the group. When a pack detected distant tremors indicating the approach of a larger predator or a feeding opportunity, they would synchronize head dips and foot lifts in a silent countdown before erupting into a collective hurry. Trackways in the Chinle Formation document these mass hurries as overlapping three-toed prints that shift gradually from wide pebbled patterns of casual walking to tight linear arcs of rapid footfalls. The synchronous acceleration created dust storms that obscured the pack's true size and direction, confusing both prey and predators alike. In this chorus of speed, each member played a vital role, the most agile on the flanks, keeping pace while central runners maintained group cohesion and rear guards ensured none straggled. The result was a living wave of urgency that carried Coelophysis across the landscape as one entity. Coelophysis harnessed the hurry not only to evade threats, but to pursue smaller prey with thrilling agility. Capable of shifting from a full sprint to a sudden stop in under half a second, it could chase down agile early mammals, lizards, and amphibians that scuttled across mud cracks and under petrified logs. Each sprint tested the dinosaur's limb coordination as it threaded narrow gaps between trees or rock outcrops before hammering its foot claws into soft soil to pivot with lightning speed. In one remarkable sequence, fossilized footprints show the dinosaur racing after a small cynodont, making tight circular turns until the creature tripped and fell. The subsequent footsteps narrow in focus, ending at a single set of tooth marks on fractured bones, a chilling record of how the hurry became a weapon in the chase. When water sources became scarce, Coelophysis turned the hurry into an endurance tactic, gliding across parched playa flats to reach distant wetlands. Maintaining a steady dash cadence, it minimized pauses between strides, conserving momentum and energy. The desert heat of midday forced half the pack to slow, but the most seasoned runners pressed on their metatarsals, scarring the crusty salt layers as they streaked toward life-giving pools. Trackways preserve parallel lines that stretch for kilometers, each set uniform in spacing, indicating a sustained hurry that carried border runners far beyond the limits of ordinary dinosaurs. These seasonal migrations echoed through Triassic epochs, shaping herd distribution and gene flow across Pangaea's supercontinent. Juvenile Coelophysis refined their hurry skills among safe rocky refuges under adult watch. Hatchling trackways clustered around ledges showed jerky rushed sprints as young tested foot placement and balance. Bone cross-sections from these juveniles reveal early rapid growth in limb shafts, honing muscle attachments that would later fuel full-scale hurries. Over months, they graduated from short bursts to longer episodes of speed, traversing small valleys and shallow washes. Observing these training runs, adults imparted vital lessons in shock absorption and aerial body posture, ensuring each fledgling mastered the hurry by the time it joined autumn hunts. The neurosensory framework underpinning the hurry manifested in enlarged optic lobes and vestibular systems that processed motion with exquisite precision. Coelophysis could detect the faintest movements of distant prey or the twitch of a predator's shadow and convert that information into split-second decisions on when to accelerate or weave between obstacles. Inner ear structures captured angular momentum, allowing the dinosaur to correct mid-stride if its footing slipped on loose sand or gravel. In the heart of the hurry, the creature became a nexus of sensory input and motor output, each limb responding in milliseconds to neural commands that guided every rapid step. During mating seasons, the hurry took on ritual significance as males showcased their prowess in head-to-head races along ridgeline tracks, each vying to impress females with the length and speed of their bursts. These contests began with side-by-side sprints along narrow paths, eventually branching into parallel arcs before a final straightaway finish, where the victor raced ahead, leaving the rival in a spray of dust. Nest excavations near these ridges reveal paired trackways with distinct toe impression widths, marking the annual hurry rituals that cemented pair bonds and determined access to prime nesting grounds. In the twilight hush, Coelophysis packs retreated from daylight perils, climbing onto rocky ledges to practice a final evening hurry along the rim. The moon cast silver shadows across their paths as they launched into rhythmic runs, their bodies ghost-like silhouettes racing across ancient stones. Each hurry etched into the limestone edge, a fleeting testament to a world of swift survival, where life pulsed in rapid cadences beneath starlit skies. Today, those ghost hurries still whisper through fossilized tracks and weathered bone fragments, inviting us to feel the ancient energy coursing through Coelophysis' legs and transforming every breath into a rush toward life. Part 10. Compsognathus Bolt. Compsognathus moved across early Jurassic shorelines with the precision of a racing arrow, its slender legs and lightweight body built for lightning-fast movement over sandy beaches and rocky outcrops. Each femur and tibia aligned almost in a straight column beneath the body, allowing explosive thrusts that launched the dinosaur into rapid strides. The metatarsals, elongated and slightly splayed, acted like tense tendons storing energy that was released with every bounding step. Compsognathus held its tail straight out behind it for balance, and its neck extended forward, pointing like a navigational arrow guiding the bolt toward insect prey or away from larger predators. Feather filaments along its arms and tail would have stiffened during these bolts, acting like aerodynamic struts that channeled airflow and stabilized its frame against sudden gusts of coastal wind. This combination of skeletal geometry and soft tissue refinement enabled Compsognathus to accelerate from standstill to full bolt in barely a heartbeat, crossing 10 meters in a single bound. In the golden light of dawn, packs of Compsognathus emerged from coastal scrublands, their collective bolts weaving a pattern of overlapping footprints across the dew-drenched sand. The synchronized motion of dozens of dinosaurs created a living shimmer as each individual darted and swerved among tidal pools and driftwood logs. Soft chirps and tail flicks served as silent signals, coordinating the pack's direction so that each bolt flowed seamlessly into the next. Fossilized trackways in fine beach sediments reveal alternating deep and shallow impressions as the dinosaurs shifted from cautious approach to sudden bolt as they closed in on crustaceans washing ashore. These communal bolts served not only to capture food but to maintain pack cohesion across hazardous terrain where slipping on wet rocks or becoming stranded by rising tides meant peril. When stalking small lizards, Compsognathus lowered its head until its eyes were level with the undergrowth, scanning for movement. Once a flicker of tail or glint of scales appeared, the dinosaur crouched briefly before launching a precision bolt that covered the distance in a flash. Its slender jaws snapped shut around its unsuspecting quarry with such speed that the prey often never registered the approach. The forelimbs, though small, adjusted the dinosaur's center of gravity mid-bolt, enabling subtle course corrections to follow erratic lizard scuttle. The filaments on its forearms likely provided sensory feedback on wind pressure and limb position, allowing Compsognathus to maintain optical focus on moving targets even at top speed. Puncture marks on small reptile bones from Solnhofen limestones attest to this high-velocity precision strike repeatedly delivered by the swiftest of bolt hunters. Beyond hunting, Compsognathus used its bolt to explore territory boundaries, marking its presence through fleeting dust trails etched into the sand and subtle scratch marks on driftwood logs. Each dinosaur maintained a network of these transitory signals that faded with the morning tide, only to be refreshed by subsequent bolts. Packs communicated through the timing and spacing of these markings, enabling individuals to trace the paths of their companions or rival packs while traversing a dynamic shoreline environment. The ephemeral nature of these signals required repeated bolt patrols, reinforcing social bonds and territorial knowledge, essential for survival in a world shaped by shifting tides and currents. Juvenile Compsognathus practiced early bolt drills under the watchful eyes of adults, learning to gauge their rapid acceleration and deceleration through repeated runs among driftwood piles. Hatchling trackways preserved in fine lagoonal spores show small pairs of imprints spaced increasingly farther apart as the young dinosaurs grew and their bolt strides lengthened. Bone studies reveal accelerated ossification in lower limb shafts during these juvenile periods, reflecting the high mechanical stresses of bolt training sessions. These early exercises refined neuromuscular coordination, enabling young Compsognathus to achieve the same graceful bolt mechanics as adults by the time they joined pack hunts. Predators such as larger theropods and crocodile relatives learned to anticipate Compsognathus bolts by watching for faint disturbances in sand patterns and listening for quiet snaps of twig or pebble displacement. In response, Compsognathus evolved unpredictable bolt trajectories, weaving across open ground in irregular zigzags that thwarted pursuit. The dinosaur could transition from a straight bolt to a series of curved arcs mid-stride, using its long tail as a dynamic rudder and its hind limbs to adjust each step instantaneously. This bolt unpredictability often forced predators to abandon chases as the small bolt targets vanished into the maze of rocks and low vegetation. The neurosensory system supporting the bolt included enlarged optic lobes and vestibular regions, indicating acute visual processing and balance control. Compsognathus could track moving targets and obstacles at high speeds, adjusting foot placement within milliseconds of detection. Inner ear structures, sensitive to angular acceleration, allowed mid-bolt corrections that prevented tumbles on slippery algae-covered stones and uneven shells. This integration of sensory input and muscular response transformed the bolt into a fluid dance of survival choreography. In the stillness of dusk, Compsognathus packs practiced twilight bolts under pale moonlight, crossing shallow tidal flats where bioluminescent algae shimmered beneath each footfall. These nocturnal runs tested the dinosaurs' balance and vision in low light, guiding their bolt through a landscape painted with ghostly blue glow. Footprints in nighttime mud layers reveal consistent patterns of deep impressions, followed by shallow landings, signaling controlled bolt decelerations at water edges. Such glimmering moonlit bolts remain a haunting reminder of the dinosaurs' blend of speed and elegance in the world's ancient littoral realms. Across the millennia, the echo of the Compsognathus bolt lingers in fossilized tracks and skeletal clues, documenting the art of living rounds where lightning gathers flesh and bone. Each bound etched into the sands of time speaks of adaptation and innovation, a testament to a small dinosaur that carved its niche through sheer velocity and precision. The bolt stands as a flicker of primal energy, a signature of survival inscribed in stone that still quickens our imagination when we trace the ancient pathways of this remarkable hunter. Part 11. Sinosauropteryx flicker. Sinosauropteryx flicked through early Cretaceous underbrush with a rapidity that defied its small stature, each filament of its proto-feathers quivering in the heat of midday, while its lean legs powered a series of lightning-fast darts and sudden halts. Beneath the mottled plumage that patterned its back like a living barcode, lay a finely tuned locomotive system built for brief but intense bursts. When sensing prey such as small lizards or insects beneath leaf litter, Sinosauropteryx would crouch low, contracting its leg muscles into a coiled spring. With a sudden flicker of movement, it darted forward, claws flashing as it snatched its target in a swift scoop of its elongated hands. The tail feathers bristled to stabilize the body in mid-lunge, guiding every precision strike as though the dinosaur's limbs were guided by invisible strings. Footprints preserved in fine silt show pairs of shallow impressions separated by deep, closely spaced marks, capturing the essence of the flicker. Rapid steps punctuated by explosive thrusts. Along river margins, Sinosauropteryx packs employed coordinated flicker tactics to corral fish and amphibians stranded in receding pools. Individuals would spread out in shallow water, their proto-feathered arms extended outward to create a moving barrier. Then, with a flicker of synchronized footfalls, the pack swept forward, driving prey toward the opposite bank where waiting members delivered the final strike. This aquatic flicker required exceptional balance and leg coordination, as each step risked slipping on slick stones while maintaining speed. The result was a living net of motion, catching vertebrates unprepared for the concerted attack. Fossil remains of small fish found in tight clusters beside parallel flicker tracks speak to the success of this ingenious hunting method. In the dappled shade of conifer groves, Sinosauropteryx used the flicker to escape ambushes by larger archosaurs. When a predator lurked behind fallen logs or among ferns, the little dinosaur would execute a rapid zigzag flicker, weaving between trunks and boulders. Its low center of gravity and flexible spine allowed sudden changes of direction that spun its pursuer off course. Feather filaments along its back likely provided sensory feedback on body orientation, enabling the dinosaur to gauge position in relation to obstacles, even at top speed. Fossilized bone beds reveal the remains of several flicker escapes, where tooth and claw marks greet empty space, an echo of near misses rendered in rock. During nesting season, female Sinosauropteryx incorporated flicker drills into nest defense rituals. Sitting atop shallow scrapes in sandy soil, they would detect approaching hatchling predators with acute hearing and whip their bodies into flickering runs around the nest perimeter. The sudden blur of proto-feathers and the hiss of wing filaments created a visual and auditory cascade that startled would-be egg thieves. By circling the nest in rapid flickers, targets became dizzy and confused, allowing the female to reclaim her eggs with a swift peck or lunge. Nest sites show concentric patterns of disturbed sand and sporadic flicker tracks, indicating these frantic defense dashes, preserved in soft substrate. Juvenile Sinosauropteryx practiced flicker from their first steps, racing siblings to fallen leaves and twigs in early morning games that honed reflexes and leg strength. Tiny trackways, chiseled in mudstone, record these youthful flickers as wobbly yet determined attempts at precision bursts. As juveniles grew, their proto-feather arrays lengthened, enhancing stability during flickers and enabling them to execute mid-air hops over small obstacles. Bone histology reveals accelerated growth in pelvic and limb regions, reflecting the physical demands of repeated flicker exercises that prepared them for independent hunting. The neuromuscular architecture underlying the flicker featured enlarged cerebellar regions for balance and rapid coordination. Inner ear studies show coiled ducts, sensitive to angular velocity, enabling quick recovery from slips and stumbles mid-flick. Optical nerve cross-sections suggest high-density photoreceptors for detecting movement in dim light, allowing Sinosauropteryx to flicker after nocturnal prey with minimal visual lag. This integration of sensory specializations transformed the flicker into a living ballet of nerve impulses and muscle contractions executed at a breathtaking pace. Even its proto-feathered arms played a subtle role in the flicker by adjusting airflow and providing minor lift during rapid hops. Though not capable of flight, the feathers stiffened at key moments, guiding circulation of air beneath the body and reducing drag during acceleration. Feather impressions found alongside skeletal fossils illustrate overlapping patterns that suggest symmetrical movements of the arms synchronized with leg strokes during the flicker. This dynamic coupling of feather and limb ensured the dinosaur could maintain speed across varied terrain without losing momentum. As twilight draped its soft glow across coastal lagoons, Sinosauropteryx flickered among mangrove-like ferns in search of glowing insects. Its stealthy approach combined with sudden flicker bursts created a pattern of disturbance that sent insects into luminous flight only to be recaptured in mid-air attempts with quick flicks of the head and claws. The interplay of flicker and prey response created an eerie light dance along the shoreline, capturing the imagination of any observing creature. Fossil insect wing fragments discovered in lagoonal shale carry tooth marks indicating dynamic aerial flicker hunts, long etched in sediment. Fossil trackways etched into sandstone and clay speak to the living whisper of the Sinosauropteryx flicker, each set of shifting prints a testament to a dance of speed and stealth. Through the study of these tracks and the skeletal clues that accompany them, we reconstruct the essence of a dinosaur whose survival hinged on bursts of movement, so rapid and precise they became the stuff of legend. The flicker remains a shimmering thread in the tapestry of Mesozoic life, a reminder that even the smallest creature could harness the power of motion to thrive in a world of constant peril and wonder. Part 12. Juravenator Scurry. In the shadowed undergrowth of late Jurassic coastal forests, Juravenator moved with a quicksilver agility, its slender frame weaving through ferns and low bushes in a blur of sinew and stealth. Each step was a study in precision, as its elongated metatarsals gripped damp leaf litter and soft mud with feathered toes that scattered dew droplets like falling stars. When the dinosaur perceived movement in the bracken, it would crouch low so that its narrow skull aligned with the underbrush, before erupting into a rapid scurry that carried it forward in long bounding strides. Its limbs functioned as tightly coiled springs, storing elastic energy in stretched tendons that unleashed kinetic force as soon as the foot touched ground. The tail feathers bristled and fanned out to maintain balance as the body twisted fluidly to follow unpredictable prey, darting between shadows. Fossilized impressions of these proto-feathers reveal their arrangement along the tail and arms, an aerial stabilizer for terrestrial maneuvers that defied expectations for a dinosaur of its size. During pack hunts, Juravenator employed the scurry to encircle small armored mammals and primitive lizards that ventured too close to deep forest shadows. One individual would initiate the scurry by bursting from concealment and driving prey toward awaiting flankers poised among mossy logs. The sudden flurry of movement disoriented the quarry as the pack executed synchronized arcs, transforming the chase into a deadly whirl of bounding limbs and flashing teeth. Trackways preserved in lagoonal siltstone display converging sets of narrow prints that spiral inward toward clusters of broken bones and crushed eggshell fragments, testifying to the effectiveness of pack scurries in overcoming nimble prey. This ancient choreography of speed and coordination reveals how Juravenator harnessed group dynamics to supersede individual limitations. Juravenator's skeletal anatomy underpinned its scurry with remarkable adaptations in limb and hip structure. The acetabulum of the pelvis was deep and reinforced, accommodating powerful gluteal and caudifemoral muscles that anchored on robust ridges along the tail base. These muscles generated the torque needed for explosive forward thrusts during scurry episodes, launching the dinosaur into swift sprints that could clear obstacles in a single bound. The femur exhibited a slight lateral curve, optimizing leverage, while the tibia and fibula locked securely at the ankle joint, preventing torsional injury. Together, these modifications formed a biomechanical masterpiece, enabling scurries of astonishing velocity and agility across complex terrain. In flickering torchlight at dusk, Juravenator scurried along riverbanks, searching for crustaceans and fish eggs hidden beneath stones and clay cracks. It used its slender forelimbs to sweep aside debris, while eyes adjusted to the dim light, capturing every sparkle of movement in the shallows. With a sudden scurry, it seized wiggling prey and retreated into thicker brush before aquatic predators could close in. Fossilized remains of mollusks and fish bones found in Juravenator gut casts confirm this opportunistic aquatic foraging, underscoring the versatility of its scurry as both land and shore tactic. When threatened by larger carnivores, Juravenator's scurry became a test of nerve and coordination. At the first thunder of distant footfalls, it flattened its body low against the forest floor, scanning for natural cover. Then it ignited its limbs into a rapid scurry, weaving between tree roots and boulders in a disabling zigzag pattern. Each change of direction leveraged its tail as a dynamic rudder, enabling mid-stride corrections that left heavy-footed pursuers stumbling or overshooting. This unpredictable scurry saved many lives and is documented by fossilized scratch marks on fallen logs and overlapping prints, vanishing into dense undergrowth. Juvenile Juravenator practiced scurry drills within hidden rock crevices, under the watchful eyes of adults, learning to time their bursts with the fleeting flickers of prey movement. Hatchling tracks reveal tiny alternating foot impressions spaced closely together, evolving into wider strides as the young dinosaurs matured. Bone growth patterns indicate accelerated development of the tibia and metatarsals during this stage, reflecting adaptation for the demands of scurry training. These early lessons in speed and balance prepared the juveniles for independent foraging and predator evasion before they left the nesting ground. The neurosensory foundation of the scurry featured heightened vestibular sensitivity and expanded optic lobes that processed rapid visual cues, guiding instantaneous limb adjustments. Juravenator could track quicksilver movements in dim forest light, translating subtle shifts in brightness into precise directional changes. Inner ear structures sensitive to angular acceleration supplied feedback when twisting mid-scurry, preventing loss of balance. This integration of sensory input with muscular output turned each scurry into a seamless dance of survival under the canopy. Even its proto-feathered arms played a role in scurry dynamics, fluttering softly to adjust airflow and stabilize the torso during rapid leaps and tight turns. Feather impressions along the forelimb bones define attachment sites that suggests a web of insulating filaments that doubled as aerodynamic aids. These feathers bristled in protective displays when packmates executed scurry encirclements, confusing prey with sudden rustles of movement and quicksilver flashes of color across leaf litter. Through eons etched in stone, the echo of the Juravenator scurry resonates in interwoven trackways and fragmented bones, capturing moments of swift motion that shaped its world. Each ancient print whispers of survival born on the edge of a heartbeat, where the smallest ripple of movement spelled either feast. In reconstructing these scurries, we glimpse the primal artistry of adaptation, a living testament to the power of speed and stealth in the dawn of dinosaur evolution. Part 13. Citipati Quickstep. Citipati moved through the arid dune fields and oasis fringes of late Cretaceous Mongolia with a rhythmic elegance that belied its robust crest and sturdy frame. Each step in its quickstep was calibrated for efficiency and grace. Its hind limbs, terminating in 3 slender toes, bore long metatarsals that acted as energy-storing springs. When Citipati lifted its foot, it flexed the ankle and arch metatarsal joints, stretching tendons that snapped taut on landing, delivering a swift rebound. The pelvis featured enlarged ilia, providing extensive attachment sites for powerful leg muscles that propelled the quickstep forward with minimal metabolic cost. As the dinosaur advanced, it held its tail aloft like a balancing staff, feathers fanning out to stabilize body alignment through shifting terrain. The forelimbs remained tucked close to the body, the hand claws curled inward to avoid snagging on desert brush. In the glow of dawn, Citipati herds emerged from sandstone, nesting copies in perfectly timed quicksteps that carried them toward feeding grounds. Each individual moved in unison, creating a living pattern of hoofbeat-like sounds across rippled sands. The synchronized footfalls generated low-frequency vibrations that passed through the sand, informing each dinosaur of nearby herdmates' position and tempo. Fossilized trackways discovered near nesting sites show parallel rows of free-toed prints, each set spaced in uniform intervals, marking a communal quickstep that spanned hundreds of meters. This rhythmic motion served to reinforce social cohesion and coordinate group movement across a vast landscape where landmarks were few and shifting sands threatened to obscure familiar paths. Citipati used the quickstep not only for travel, but as a display during courtship ritual. Males would lift into a taller posture, crest feathers erect, and execute a series of exaggerated quickstep moves, punctuated by head bobs that sent plumes fluttering in the breeze. Females responded with mirrored steps and lowered vocalizations that filled the dawn air. These synchronized movements formed a dance of fidelity and strength, a prelude to nesting that bound pairs together through shared rhythm. Sedimentary layers around fossilized nests preserve overlapping track patterns indicating courtship quicksteps danced in precise alignment beneath ancient skies. When threatened by predators such as Tyrannosaurs, Citipati converted the quickstep into a rapid escape tactic, weaving between low shrubs and palm fronds. The lateral stability provided by its broad metatarsal architecture allowed it to sidestep swiftly, avoiding snapping jaws. Feathered arms extended slightly during this maneuver, acting as steering flaps that guided air currents to maintain balance through sudden lateral shifts. Fossil bone beds show Citipati skeletons recovered within herbivore kill sites, displaying healed toe fractures, consistent with repeated quickstep escapes under duress. These injuries reveal that survival often depended on the agility of the quickstep when confronted by deadly threats. Juvenile Citipati honed their quickstep from the moment they left the nest, performing short bursts of rhythmic stepping around sheltering adults. Hatchling trackways reveal sets of evenly spaced tiny prints that widen as the young grew, their limbs lengthened and muscles strengthened. Bone histology indicates accelerated ossification in the foot bones during this period, reflecting the physical stresses of quickstep training. Adults guided juveniles through safe practice zones among protected rock shelters, ensuring each fledgling mastered the precise timing required to sustain the quickstep. Citipati's neurosensory system was adapted to control the quickstep with exquisite precision. Enlarged cerebellar lobes processed balance and movement coordination, while vestibular sensory organs in the inner ears detected shifts in angular momentum. This integration allowed Citipati to maintain steady rhythm even on sloping dunes where the angle of foot contact constantly changed. Its wide-field binocular vision captured landmarks in low light, guiding each step towards safety and resources. These neurological adaptations made the quickstep a seamless extension of its daily routine. During feeding, Citipati employed a miniature quickstep to forage among low driftwood and fallen fruit clusters. It moved in a series of short rhythmic hops that allowed it to probe undercover and snatch seeds, insects, and small reptiles with its parrot-like beak. The quickstep hops provided rapid repositioning without alerting prey, while conserving energy compared to longer sprints. Fossil gut contents reveal a diet rich in seeds, arthropods, and small vertebrates, reflecting the versatility of the quickstep in both macro and micro foraging contexts. In twilight hours, the quickstep took on an almost ceremonial quality as Citipati returned to roosting cliffs. The dinosaurs moved in pairs, stepping in lockstep along narrow ledges, each footfall echoing softly against sandstone. The rhythmic progression lulled younger members into a calm state, preparing them for nest brooding. Feather impressions along forelimbs settled into gentle positions as the dinosaurs reached their nesting hollows and lowered into protective crouches. The final quickstep marks faded into stillness as the Citipati clan settled for the night beneath ancient constellations. Across fossilized sands, the rhythm of the Citipati quickstep endures in parallel trackways and articulated skeletons captured in nesting position. Each print and bone echo a story of life paced by precision steps, where movement was both necessity and art form. The quickstep stands as a vibrant testament to the fusion of sociality, speed, and survival instincts that defined Citipati's world deep in the age of Part 14. Minmi Shuffle. Minmi carried its armored body across early Cretaceous floodplains with a deliberate shuffle that spoke of unshakable steadiness and quiet determination. Its broad, low-slung form was protected by rows of bony scutes fused to the skin, each one forming a living quilt of defenses. When Minmi moved, it did not rush, but instead advanced in measured steps, shifting from one foot to the next in a side-to-side rhythm that minimized the strain on its heavy limb bones. The metatarsal and metacarpal segments were short and robust, built to support the dinosaur's weight, while allowing the shuffle to cover long distances without fatigue. With each step, the tail club swayed gently in tandem, offering additional balance and serving as a counterweight to the turret-like arrangement of plates along its back. Beneath this armored exterior lay a muscular network that flexed and released with each shuffle, creating a slow ripple of power from tail root to shoulder girdle. Along riverbanks, Minmi herds performed the shuffle in unison, a rolling procession of armored forms that shaped the landscape as much as it navigated it. Each dinosaur followed a slightly staggered path, avoiding the footprints of its predecessor to preserve the stability of muddy ground. As they moved, shallow depressions filled with water and reflected their plated backs in liquid glass, making the herd appear like a column of floating mirages. Fossilized trackways in sandy siltstone reveal parallel rows of wide prints, spaced at regular intervals, testifying to the endurance of the shuffle as a migration strategy that carried these dinosaurs to better grazing grounds when seasonal floods receded. Each footfall was deliberate and assured a constant advance that carried the herd several kilometers a day under the scorching sun. When faced with predators, Minmi used the shuffle to create illusions of multiple targets. By slightly varying its shuffle tempo within the herd, confusion reigned among approaching tyrannosaurs and megaraptors. Predators hesitated as they sought a vulnerable individual, only to find the entire quarry shifting in a seamless way. During these tense moments, an adult Minmi raised its tail club and delivered a stirring counterattack swing that capitalized on the predator's momentary uncertainty. Defensive scars found on Minmi tail clubs hint at repeated clashes where the shuffle served not only as a means of escape, but as a prelude to well-timed assaults on would-be attackers. Minmi's shuffle also played a central role in territorial displays among males competing for nesting sites. At the height of breeding season, pairs of males performed side-by-side shuffles, circling each other in ever-tightening loops. Each step was accompanied by low rumbling growls that echoed through the swampy marshes. Feather-like structures preserved near shoulder scutes may have served as display plumes that bristled and flared during these dances, adding visual complexity to the shuffle. The interaction often concluded with one male turning and delivering a powerful tail strike before resuming the march toward the nesting hollows of preferred mates. Juvenile Minmi learned the shuffle under the protective watch of adult guardians, practicing in the shallows of drying ponds, where their lighter frames allowed them to test stepping balance. Tiny imprints found near adult trackways show young dinosaurs attempting the same side-to-side rhythm, albeit with shorter strides and more frequent pausing, as they developed the muscle coordination necessary for the full shuffle. Bone cross-sections from juveniles reveal accelerated ossification around the ankle and wrist joints, reflecting the mechanical demands of carrying nascent body armor while learning to shuffle. The shuffle required an intricate neuromuscular coordination facilitated by enlarged cerebellar regions that processed balance and motor control. Inner ear vestibular structures detected subtle shifts in body position, allowing Minmi to adjust limb placement when stepping over fallen logs or slippery algae-coated stone. This integration of sensory input and muscular response transformed each shuffle into a precise performance capable of crossing unstable ground without sliding or tipping. Across lush vegetation zones, Minmi used the shuffle to forage for low-growing plants, selecting nutrient-rich shoots and ferns with its parrot-like beak. As it shuffled forward, its head moved in a steady pendulum, selecting and cropping plants with impressive speed for a heavily armored dinosaur. The side-to-side rhythm of the shuffle enabled Minmi to sample a wide swath of vegetation in each cycle, maximizing intake while minimizing energy expenditure. Fossilized gut contents found in stomach region impressions show a diverse diet of cycads, horsetails, and early flowering plants, testifying to the success of the shuffle as a feeding strategy. Even under moonlit skies, Minmi shuffle took on an almost ritual quality as herds gathered near sandstone ledges to rest. The dinosaurs formed loose circles, maintaining the shuffle rhythm until darkness fell, their armored bodies swaying in gentle unison. When the moon rose, each dinosaur found its place in the herd by following the shuffle pattern with careful foot placement, ensuring every member remained connected. This nightly march into sleep prepared their bones and muscles for the long journeys and defensive dances of the next day under the relentless sun. Across time, etched in sandstone, the echo of the Minmi shuffle endures in trackways and fossilized armor plates that capture the slow power of a dinosaur defined by rhythm and resilience. Each careful step speaks of adaptation and endurance, a living ballet that sustained these creatures through seasons of plenty and drought. In tracing the shuffle, we glimpse the ancient narrative of life armored against peril, carried forward step by deliberate step across the wind-swept shores of deep time. Part 15. Ornitholestes Zip. Ornitholestes moved through the fern clumps and conifer thickets of late Jurassic floodplains with an almost supernatural swiftness, every muscle twitching in readiness for sudden action. Its long, slender legs carried it in a continuous series of rapid bounds that blurred the line between grounded sprint and low-gliding leaps. The femur and tibia formed a powerful piston assembly driving each bound, while the elongated metatarsals acted like tensioned springs, storing elastic energy that propelled the dinosaur forward. As Ornitholestes zipped beneath the canopy, its tail feathers fanned out to provide aerodynamic stability, nudging subtle air currents and keeping the body erect through twisting turns. Each bound landed on padded claws that absorbed impact and allowed for near-silent footfalls on soft soil that never gave hint to the predator's presence until it was too late. In the early morning mist, Ornitholestes used its zip to stalk insect swarms swaying among club moss and horsetail stalks. With calibrated precision, it would crouch low until only its shining eyes glimmered like gems in the gloom. Then in a heartbeat it would accelerate into a blur, crossing half a dozen meters before its quarry even registered movement. Its slender forelimbs flexed outward as the dinosaur closed in, enabling mid-stride adjustments that tracked the unpredictable flight patterns of dragonflies and mayflies. Feathered arms flickered in concert, guiding wind flow and stabilizing its trajectory, while the beak opened in a quick snap, capturing multiple insects in one swift gulp. The mechanics of this aerial zip remain a tantalizing mystery, preserved only in fleeting track patterns and fragmented insect remains found in stomach region. Impressions. When larger prey such as small mammals emerged from burrows, Ornitholestes combined zip with tactical patience. It would stalk through broken light and shadow, taking careful note of wind direction and ground vibration. Then with zero warning, it sprang into a high-velocity zip, darting around ferns and fallen logs in a rapid encirclement that cut off escape paths. The quarry, caught between converging arcs of speed, stood no chance against the precision of a pack partner flanking move. Fossilized trackways often reveal paired zip tracks curving inward toward kill sites, testifying to the coordinated pounce and swift dispatch that defined these hunts. Ornitholestes packs also used the zip to patrol territory boundaries, marking their presence through rapid sprints that skirted the edges of rival domains. Each member of the group took turns initiating bursts of speed from concealed positions behind tree stumps and boulders, emerging in a streak of motion that conveyed a clear message to intruders. The resulting patterns of sweeping arcs and parallel lines in soft substrate signaled to other paths the limits of unwelcome zones. This territorial zip maintained separation of populations and minimized costly conflicts among these opportunistic predators. Juvenile Ornitholestes honed their zip in playful contests along ridgeline ledges where wind gusts sharpened their balance and reflexes. Hatchling trackways show series of short, rapid bounds that increased in length and speed as young dinosaurs matured. Bone cross-sections from juvenile specimens display accelerated development in limb shafts, reflecting the physical demands of zip training. Under adult supervision, these fledglings practiced sudden bursts and quick stops, mastering the gait that would later define their hunting prowess. When dusk fell and predators such as Torvosaurus emerged from shadowed ravines, Ornitholestes relied on their zip for escape rather than pursuit. They executed frantic zigzagging sprints, weaving through dense vegetation to create confusion and evade capture. Their lithe bodies compressed into tight spirals and spun out again in another rapid bolt, leaving clumsy footprints of larger hunters abandoned and aimless. Trace fossils record these desperate chases as overlapping scrapes and abrupt stops that then dissolve into silence as Ornitholestes vanished into the brush. Neurological adaptations underpinned the zip's precision. Enlarged optic lobes provided exquisite motion detection, enabling the dinosaur to track rapid movement in low light. Vestibular sensory regions processed angular momentum, ensuring that each twist and turn remained controlled. These neural enhancements allowed Ornitholestes to combine speed with balance in a seamless performance, where every nerve impulse translated into perfect musculoskeletal coordination. Even in the faint glow of moonlight, Ornitholestes packs practice synchronized zip patrols along creek beds, their shapes flickering across water surfaces and reflected in still pools. They moved in echelon formations, with each step timed to maintain group alignment and prevent isolation. This moonlit zip served to forage nocturnal prey and reinforce pack unity while avoiding daytime predators. Fossilized ripple patterns atop lagoonal limestone hint at the water disturbances left by these midnight runs, a silent testament to the dinosaur's ability to navigate both land and rippling water with unwavering speed. Through the sedimentary layers and fragmented fossil remains, the essence of the Ornitholestes zip endures in the shapes of footprints and the faint impressions of proto-feathers. Each trace carries the echo of a heartbeat surpassed in speed, a fleeting fragment of motion etched in stone. In retracing these ancient patterns, we feel the thrill of a world where survival hinged on the power of swift action and the subtle art of moving unseen until the perfect moment to strike or escape. The zip remains a vivid testament to the evolutionary mastery of agility and timing in a diminutive predator whose legacy still quickens our imagination. Part 16. Microraptor Flit. Microraptor flitted through the misty canopies of early Cretaceous forests, with feathered limbs extending above and below its body, forming a unique four-winged airfoil that turned every leap into a graceful arc. Its arms and legs bore long pennaceous feathers that, when fully extended, created broad lift surfaces, enabling short glides from branch to branch. The body itself remained relatively rigid, acting as a central spar while wing feathers tapered at the tips to reduce drag and maintain stability. When Microraptor launched itself off a moss-draped limb, it angled its body downward at roughly 20 degrees and spread its limbs wide. Updrafts rising along tree trunks supported sustained flits of up to 30 meters length before a controlled descent into a nearby forked branch. The combination of lift and controlled pitch adjustments allowed Microraptor not only to travel but to maneuver around obstacles at astonishing speeds. In dawn's pale light, Microraptor packs moved through the forest like living shadows, each bird selecting perches high above the ground where it could scan for moving shapes below. Their flits were silent affairs, the feathers absorbing most sound while each wingtip flexed to adapt to subtle changes in air pressure. When they spotted small prey on the forest floor, they flicked their tails to signal a coordinated dive. Synchronizing their flits, they descended in converging paths that gave them a surround view of their quarry. As one flitted horizontally to cut off escape, another swooped low to flush out insects and small vertebrate. Fossilized gut contents reveal feathers of small birds and bones of lizards, testifying to the deadly precision of these pack flits that blended aerial mastery with ground-level hunting tactics. Microraptor feathers displayed iridescent coloration patterns that likely played a role in both camouflage and communication as they flitted through dappled sunlight. The upper layers of feather barbules contained microscopic platelets whose orientation caused light to refract into shimmering greens and blues. When viewed from below, the flitting bird appeared as a flicker of living gemstone against the sky, confusing predators and prey. Pair flits during mating season further accentuated these effects, as two birds performed mirrored glides beneath leafy vaults, their iridescent feathers catching every ray of dawn in a silent aerial dance that proclaimed fitness and strength. The tail feathers of Microraptor formed a sophisticated rudder system that guided each flit with astonishing nuance. 4 long feathers fanned from the tail tip, while smaller side feathers added surface area. During level flits, Microraptor tweaked its tail angle to adjust lift coefficient and control descent rate. In tight turns, the tail flexed laterally to counteract centrifugal force, keeping the bird upright and on course. This tail-anchored control made Microraptor one of the most agile gliders of its time, able to outmaneuver larger theropods and soar past distant perches with the precision of a skilled pilot. Juvenile Microraptor practiced their first flits in sheltered groves beneath protective adults. Tiny imprints of 4-winged trackways in soft mud beside fossilized parental prints show hatchlings bounding from low branches and gliding only a few meters before landing on leafy platforms. Over months, these fledglings lengthened their wing and tail feathers through rapid molt cycles, each generation fine-tuning their flit mechanics until they could match adult performance. Bone microstructure reveals vascular canals in wing bones, indicating accelerated growth and robust blood supply required to develop strong feather attachments during these formative seasons. When the monsoon rains transformed the forest floor into a maze of flooding rivulets, Microraptor flit became an indispensable travel method. Wet ground dissuaded footed travel, yet the rain-drenched canopy above remained a network of perches connected by airborne corridors. Microraptor flitted across the soggy floodplain, traversing tree trunks and vines, instead of wading through mud where sluggish movement would attract dangerous crocodile relatives. Fossilized raindrop impressions overlying trackways suggest these aerial escapes were preserved in moments of sudden storms, capturing the impulse to leave the ground for safe arboreal passage. The neurosensory adaptations behind the flit included enlarged vestibular organs and optic lobes, specialized for motion detection and spatial orientation. Microraptor processed visual inputs in high-speed neural circuits, allowing instantaneous adjustment of wing and tail positions during rapid glides through complex environments. Inner ear semicircular canals provided precise feedback on head and body rotation, maintaining equilibrium in mid-flit somersaults and sudden course corrections. This advanced sensory integration transformed the flit from mere descent into a dynamic aerial ballet. Even at twilight, Microraptor lined the forest edges, performing final training flits before roosting among bromeliad clusters high in the canopy. The birds moved in silent sequences, each flit synchronizing with others, until the forest seemed to pulse with living silhouettes vanishing into night's embrace. In these last flits of daylight, they practiced lift conservation and landing accuracy, preparing for the long sleep ahead. The soft rustle of feathers echoing through moonlit leaves remained the final whisper of their aerial mastery before darkness claimed the sky. Across ancient forest floors and fractured sediments, the echo of the Microraptor flit endures in overlapping feather impressions and trackway patterns that map airborne highways long since vanished. Each fossilized ripple in stone calls to life the thrill of arboreal gliding, a moment of pure aerial freedom, shaped by evolution's relentless drive toward movement. In tracing these flits, we unravel the secrets of a world where dinosaurs took to the skies in fleeting arcs between branches and clouds, a silent testament to the power of wings in a land ruled by tooth and claw. Part 17. Masiakasaurus Scuttle. Masiakasaurus navigated the sun-baked floodplains and rocky shores of late Cretaceous Madagascar with a distinctive forward-leaning scuttle that combined cautious probing with sudden bursts of speed. Its skull jutted downward with forward-projecting teeth, specialized for hooking small fish and invertebrates from tidal pools, and its body weight shifted onto the balls of its feet as its slender metatarsals flexed like springs beneath the surface. When the dinosaur crept along the water's edge, it advanced in a series of short, chip-chip steps, each directed by the recurved front teeth that probed beneath loose stones. Then, at the slightest sign of movement, Masiakasaurus exploded into a rapid scuttle that carried it over slippery, algae-coated rocks in a bundle of sinew and precision. The tail feathers fanned out behind it, stiffened for balance, while the forelimbs flexed almost bird-like, ready to steady the body or snatch prey, with webbed toe claws acting like grappling hooks as it darted across unstable ground. During low tide, Masiakasaurus formed small hunting groups that used the scuttle to herd shrimp and small crustaceans into shallow depressions where snapping bites could capture them efficiently. One individual would initiate the scuttle by racing along the waterline, kicking up a mist of spray that alarmed shrimp into panicked movement. Flockmates then scuttled in parallel arcs, converging on the center where prey had been driven. This choreographed water's edge dance ended with clusters of tiny carapaces scattered across the sand and the satisfying crack of Masiakasaurus' jaws clamping on tender morsels. Fossilized ichnofossils in Madagascar reveal sets of narrow three-toed tracks interwoven with repeated scuttling marks, preserved in fine silt, hinting at countless collaborative hunts that shaped these coastal ecosystems. The biomechanics of the scuttle were anchored in unique adaptations of Masiakasaurus limb joints and muscle arrangements. Its ankles featured a pronounced hinge joint that allowed the foot to dorsiflex deeply, stretching the digital flexor tendons like bowstrings during the forward lean. This mechanism stored elastic energy that was released as the body thrust forward. The hip joints were reinforced by expanded iliosciatic crests, providing support for robust cauda femoralis muscles, powering sudden acceleration. As Masiakasaurus scuttled across uneven terrain, these muscular and tendon systems generated constant micro-adjustments that maintained traction, transforming each short stride into a springboard for the next. Masiakasaurus also relied on its scuttle to escape larger predators, such as abelisaurids that roamed the same shores. When detecting distant tremors or the smell of carrion, the dinosaur would flatten its body low, head extended, and then erupt into a zigzag scuttle, weaving through mangrove roots and fallen logs. The forward-leaning posture reduced its profile, while the agile foot placements created a mesmerizing blur of motion that frustrated pursuit. Fossilized trackways show predator prints abruptly ending as scuttle prints of Masiakasaurus veer sharply into dense scrub, leaving only scattered claw marks on fallen branches where foes attempted unsuccessfully to continue the chase. Juvenile Masiakasaurus practiced scuttle drills under the protective watch of adults, darting between sheltering rock crevices and fallen palm fronds. Hatchling trackways preserved alongside adult prints show an eager but hesitant series of probing steps that evolved into confident scuttles as the young dinosaurs matured. Bone analysis reveals accelerated ossification in toe bones during this period, reflecting the high mechanical demands of stepping on uneven substrates. By the time they joined pack hunts, The juveniles had already mastered the scuttle's balance and timing necessary for adult feeding and defense. The sensory foundation supporting the scuttle included enlarged optic lobes and vestibular regions specialized for processing rapid changes in head and body position. Masiakasaurus could detect the slightest ripple in a tidal pool or the faintest shimmer of a crustacean shell thanks to forward-facing eyes, providing stereoscopic depth perception. Inner ear canals processed angular velocity, enabling instantaneous adjustments during sudden turns and stops mid-scuttle. This neuromuscular integration transformed the scuttle into a fluid dance where sensory inputs and muscular outputs merge seamlessly to guide each sprint across unstable surfaces. During mating season, Masiakasaurus incorporated scuttles into elaborate courtship rituals where males and females performed synchronized waterline dances. Males displayed their hooked front teeth by skimming the surface with a series of scuttle and dip moves, while females responded with mirrored feints, flicking water with their toe claws in rhythmic patterns. These displays ended with a final rapid scuttle leading both dinosaurs into shallow water where gentle nuzzling and nudges sealed pair bonds. Sedimentary layers near fossil nests show disturbances in ripple marks, indicating these intricate dances once played out beneath ancient shorelines. Even in the moonlit recesses of rock-walled tidal basins, Masiakasaurus scuttled silently beneath the glow of phosphorescent algae. Its scaled body blended with the shadows, while each scuttle created a fleeting iridescent trail as the algae fluoresced under pressure. By dawn, the glimmering tracks faded into the dawn's soft light, leaving only the faintest impressions that demanded careful excavation to uncover. These nightly scuttles attest to the dinosaurs' versatility in exploiting both daylight and nocturnal resources along the water's edge. Across fossilized sands and lagoonal muds, the echo of the Masiakasaurus scuttle endures in narrow trackways and claw marks carved in stone. Each print speaks of a creature whose survival hinged on mastery of a unique gait, combining caution, speed, and precision. In retracing these scuttles, we glimpse an ecosystem shaped by the interplay of predator-prey and tidal rhythms. A dance of life written on the shifting shores of deep time. Part 18. Anchiornis Whisk. Anchiornis, the delicate four-winged feathered dinosaur that flitted among the mist-shrouded pines of the late Jurassic, possessed a uniquely sensitive arrangement of facial filaments and plumage that enabled it to whisk through its environment with uncanny precision. Long, slender feathers framed its beak and cheeks, forming a tactile fringe akin to the whiskers of modern mammals. As Anchiornis moved through sun-dappled undergrowth, these whiskers brushed against ferns and low-hanging branches, relaying subtle information about air currents and proximity to obstacles. Beneath the plumage, specialized sensory corpuscles embedded in the skin detected minute pressure changes each whisked feather shaft, transmitting data to nerve endings that guided the dinosaur's next step. When Anchiornis launched into its characteristic glides from branch to branch, these facial filaments smoothed the airflow around its head, reducing turbulence and sharpening its aerial maneuvers across narrow gaps in the canopy. This combination of tactile and aerodynamic function elevated the whisk from mere sensory adornment into an essential tool for navigating complex arboreal landscape. In dawn's golden haze, Anchiornis flocks used their whisk in collaborative foraging, sweeping low-hanging fern fronds and mossy branches in coordinated fashion to flush out insects and small lizards. One individual would initiate a slow gliding approach, whiskers brushing against foliage to locate hidden prey by feel. Upon detecting movement, the bird would deploy an agile whisk-guided turn mid-air, altering wing angles while its facial filaments skimmed past stems to pinpoint precise prey location. Companions followed similar whisk-assisted glides, forming a living net of feathery sensors that converged on startled prey. Fossil trackways on fallen logs, inscribed with overlapping scuff marks and preserved feather impressions, capture the ghostly choreography of these group whisk-driven hunts, revealing an intricate dance woven through the forest understory. Anchiornis also relied on its whisk to perform balance-assisted landings after short glides. As the dinosaur descended toward a narrow limb, it extended its feathered legs and flared its whiskers forward, tactile strands grazing the branch surface milliseconds before its toes touched down. This sensory preview allowed rapid micro-adjustments of wing feather positions and leg angle, ensuring a silent, precise touchdown even in near-dark conditions beneath the dense canopy. High-resolution scans of limb bone micro-damage patterns show consistent stress points indicating repeated anchoring maneuvers linked to whisk-guided landings, a testament to the whisk's role in perfecting arboreal flight operations. Juvenile Anchiornis honed their whisk-guided glides in sheltered groves from the moment they fledged, weaving between adult guardians as they practiced controlled falls and glides. Their whiskers sprouted early, fine and downy, providing essential tactile feedback as they slipped and caught themselves on low branches. Trackways left life these youngsters show the progression from hesitant hops guided by alternating whisk touches to confident aerotactile leaps that climbed hundreds of meters in arboreal distance. Studies of bone growth rings in juvenile specimens reveal accelerated feather and whisk follicle development in tandem with limb ossification, highlighting the critical developmental synergy between tactile sensing and aerial mobility. When threatened by larger predators such as small theropods, Anchiornis executed rapid whisk-guided evasion tactics that blended short glides with sudden vertical dashes up tree trunks. Its powerful hind limbs delivered scuttling leaps while the facial filaments brushed against bark roughness, orienting the body for the next leap. As it ascended, it unfurled its four wings to slow descent and switch into a controlled climb using aerotactile cues to find secure root handholds. Fossilized claw marks on vertical logs near Anchiornis nesting sites preserve these frantic escape climbs, providing rare evidence of whisk-enhanced arboreal evasion strategy. Anchiornis's whisk also played a subtle role in social and courtship displays, where overlapping glides and facial feather displays communicated fitness and species identity. Males approached potential mates in airy circuits, their whiskers flared outward like greeting tendrils, while soft calls resonated through the forest. Females responded by adjusting whisk orientation and tail feather vibrations, creating a delicate interplay of tactile and visual signal. Nest sites discovered atop sandstone pillars contain clusters of Anchiornis skeletons oriented in concentric patterns, suggesting communal courtship and nesting rituals guided by whisk-aided coordination and mutual display. The neurological architecture supporting the whisk featured enlarged trigeminal nerve branches and specialized sensory nuclei in the brainstem, enabling millisecond speed processing of tactile information. As each whisk feather bent or vibrated in response to substrate or airflow, sensory impulses coursed along these nerves, guiding instantaneous adjustments in wing posture and limb placement. This direct whisk-to-brain pathway orchestrated every nuance of Anchiornis's aerial ballet, from leaf-skimming hunts to dawn murmurs across the canopy. Even under moonlit skies, Anchiornis flitted through silvered branches, using its whisk to probe unfamiliar limbs and sniff out hidden roosts. Its ghostly glides under starlight left faint traces in nighttime sediments, overlapping whisk imprint lines near preserved feather silhouettes, documenting the nightly vigil of whisk-piloted ancestors. In these silent arcs of flight, we glimpse the blend of sensory acuity and aerial finesse that made Anchiornis a master of its arboreal realm. From fossilized whisker bases preserved on skull fragments to trackway patterns inked in fine ash, the legacy of the Anchiornis whisk continues to whisper through deep time. Each ancient imprint and skeletal detail evokes the thrill of a world where feathered dinosaurs navigated the heights by touch and balance, where every whisk quiver charted a path through wind and foliage. In retracing these flits, glides and scuttles, we honor a creature whose life was written in the language of feathers and whose memory lingers in the tactile threads of prehistory. Part 19. Beipiaosaurus Scamper. Beipiaosaurus swept across early Cretaceous floodplain forests with an unusual blend of feathered display and fleet-footed agility, each scamper carrying its elongated forelimbs and filamentous body plumage in a living tapestry of color and motion. Its legs, slender but muscular, ended in three-toed feet tipped with curved claws that gripped soft earth and slippery mud with equal ease. When Beipiaosaurus detected the slightest rustle of small amphibians or insects hiding beneath fallen leaves, it would dip its head low and crouch, compressing its femur and tibia like coiled springs. In one fluid motion it released the stored energy, propelling itself forward into a frantic scamper that covered several meters before screeching to a halt in a swirl of feathered arms. The body plumage, long ribbon-like filaments cascading down its back and forelimbs, bristled during each movement, serving both as aerodynamic stabilizers and as visual signals to nearby conspecifics, shimmering through the forest gloom like living banners. Along the banks of meandering streams, Beipiaosaurus packs orchestrated, coordinated scampers to herd small fish and crustaceans toward shallow pools. One individual would initiate the drive by racing along the water's edge, its scamper throwing up a spray of droplets in a glittering arc. As prey scattered, other members of the group extended their feathered forelimbs in a synchronized display before darting in to snatch the fleeing animal. Fossilized trackways reveal interlaced patterns of three-toed prints converging on polished rock surfaces, smoothed by repeated passages, marking ancient fishing grounds where Beipiaosaurus turned the art of the scamper into a collaborative aquatic feat. In dappled understories, the scamper became a vital escape tactic when larger predators struck. At the first hint of a stalking Godisaurus or Tarbosaurus, Beipiaosaurus would erupt into a frantic flurry of steps, zigzagging through ferns and fallen logs with astonishing agility. The tail, long, feathered and counterbalanced, swung in concert with each step, guiding the body through sharp turns that left predators slipping on wet leaves or crashing into tree trunks. Healed fractures in fossil specimens attest to close calls and narrow escapes, revealing that the scamper was as much a tool of survival as of predation. Juvenile Beipiaosaurus practiced early scamper drills under adult supervision, weaving among protective flanks in shaded clearings. Tiny trackways show minute prints pacing alongside larger adults, each bound testing the limits of developing muscles and gustatory nerves innervating the footpads. Bone histology indicates accelerated growth in the metatarsal shafts during this formative period, reflecting the physical demands of repeated high-impact strides that primed juveniles for independent foraging and predator evasion. During mating season, the scamper evolved into a display ritual, with males executing sweeping lateral runs punctuated by sudden hops and feathered arm flares to attract females. These courtship scampers echoed across open glades as rival males answered the challenge, racing in parallel tracks that formed intricate patterns in the soil. Spectacular bursts of color from iridescent filaments along the forelimbs and back dazzled prospective mates, transforming the scamper into a living pageant of speed and beauty. Beipiaosaurus also used the scamper to patrol territory boundaries, stitching a network of narrow tracks around nesting areas and feeding grounds. Each circuit, marked with subtle claw scrapes on stones and branches, served as a signpost to neighbors. This domain is claimed. Over time, the overlapping scarlet feather imprints preserved on soft sediment layers recorded centuries of territorial scampers, now fossilized as a palimpsest of social negotiation in stone. The neurosensory integration behind the scamper was extraordinary. Enlarged floccular lobes in the cerebellum processed balance and fine motor control, while highly developed optic lobes tracked shifting shadows and prey movements within milliseconds. Inner ear structures detected subtle changes in angular velocity as the body twisted mid-stride, enabling instantaneous adjustments that kept Beipiaosaurus upright and on course, even over mossy logs and uneven ground. This sensory sophistication turned the Scamper into a seamless dance of reflex and intention. Even by moonlight, the Scamper retained its purpose. Under pale starlight, Beipiaosaurus packs glided through hush-filled forests, their silhouettes flickering like living ghosts as they flitted between tree trunks in search of nocturnal insects. The Scamper at night was softer, more deliberate, less a frantic dash than a measured exploration, aided by sensory feathers brushing against the cool air, guiding each step with hushed precision. In the weathered stones and fossil beds of Liaoning, the echo of the Beipiaosaurus Scamper endured. Three-toed tracks etched in ash and intertwined with feather impressions speak to the heartbeat of a world where survival and seduction, foraging and flight, all converged in the shimmering motion of a feathered dinosaur on the move. The Scamper lives on in every print, every fragment of fossil, whispering the story of life's delicate balance of speed, agility, and the iridescent drama of ancient forests. Part 20. Mononykus Flick. Mononykus stalked the arid late Cretaceous desert margins with a single formidable claw and slender legs built for speed. Its gait defined by a rapid flick of the forelimbs before every sprint. Each forelimb, though reduced to a powerful stump supporting one enlarged digit, functioned like a mechanical probe ready to flick away sand or scratch open insect nests. When the little dinosaur approached a termite mound, it bent low and extended its claw with a sudden flicking motion that displaced granules of earth in a tiny arc, revealing hidden prey beneath. Its hind limbs, long and muscular, absorbed the recoil of that flick, then launched the body forward in a series of rapid strides that carried it across the dunes in breathtaking bursts. The tail, held horizontally, acted as a dynamic counterweight, guiding each flick and dash with gyroscopic precision, keeping Mononykus stable even at top speeds. In dawn's pale light, packs of Mononykus moved together in tight formations, each individual flashing its claw in a display of synchronized flicks before launching into chases after opportunistic prey. The coordinated flick served as a visual signal communicating the moment to advance or retreat. At the cue, every dinosaur launched itself into a blur, scouring the ground for burrowing insects and small lizards disturbed by the group's approach. Fossil footprints in dune deposits record these collective scuttles and fleeting flick marks where claws scraped the sand in unison, a silent testament to the power of communal hunting driven by the flick's discrete command. Mononykus did not rely solely on the flick for foraging. It also combined flick and kick tactics to open hardened termite tunnels. Using one rapid flick of its claw, it gouged a narrow slit in the compacted soil, then kicked backward with its hind limbs to widen the gap. This repeated flick-kick cycle created a miniature excavation that exposed insect galleries without the need for bulky forelimbs or heavy jaws. The innovation of the flick-kick technique turned Mononykus into a small but effective desert engineer, withdrawing troves of termites and beetle larvae from beneath crusty surfaces. When threatened by larger predators, Mononykus used the flick as a feint to distract attackers. It would crouch low, flick its claw above loose pebbles, creating a small cloud of dust, then dart away in a zigzag dash that left would-be pursuers lunging at empty ground. The unexpected dust plume served as a momentary blind blizzard, guiding the predator's attention upward while the dinosaur slipped into cover. Fossilized claw marks on weathered stones near known Mononykus sites reflect these defensive flick maneuvers, preserving the split second when dust and deception combine to ensure survival. Juvenile Mononykus practiced flick drills in sheltered gullies beneath adult supervision, honing their precision by flicking at small seeds and pebbles before transitioning to insect targets. Hatchling trackways show tiny three-toed prints interspersed with faint flick gouges, indicating early mastery of the flick's angle and force. Bone histology of juvenile forelimb shafts reveals accelerated development of muscle insertion sites, reflecting the physical demands of repetitive flick training that prepared them for independent foraging soon after fledging. The neurological integration behind the flick was remarkable. Enlarged cerebellar lobes guided the timing and coordination of the forelimb flick, while dopamine-enriched reward circuits reinforced successful flick strikes. Mononykus processed tactile feedback from the claw with specialized nerve endings at the tip of the digit, enabling precise control over force and direction. This advanced sensoromotor coupling turned each flick into a seamless extension of the dinosaur's intent, allowing it to unearth prey with unparalleled efficiency. Even at night, Mononykus continued its flick-driven hunts beneath starlit skies. Its large eyes, adapted to low light, enabled it to detect the faint shimmer of termite movements beneath the sand. With a silent flick, it disrupted the soil and waited for soft rustles before darting in to consume the insects by the hundreds. Trackways in moonlit mud layers revealed delicate flick impressions, followed by scuttle footprints, indicating nocturnal flick hunts that sustained these dinosaurs through the long desert chill. Over time, Mononykus's flick left an indelible mark on the fossil record. Tiny gouges etched into firm sandstone and dune calcite preserved the arcs of featherless forelimb strikes that once yielded sustenance. Each mark is a testament to the interplay of anatomy and behavior, where a single claw defined an entire niche. In retracing these flick prints and scuttle paths, we glimpse the story of a creature shaped by both scarcity and ingenuity, a diminutive hunter whose every movement pivoted on the power of the flick. Part 21. Heterodontosaurus Trot. There was something deeply unusual about Heterodontosaurus, a small but fast-footed herbivorous dinosaur that trotted across the early Jurassic plains of southern Africa. What made this creature so strangely compelling was not just its speed or its compact frame, but the mystery held within its mismatched teeth. The name Heterodontosaurus literally means different-toothed lizard, and it was no exaggeration. In its narrow jaws, this dinosaur housed a perplexing combination of sharp fang-like canines in the front and tightly packed grinding teeth in the back. This mosaic of dental weaponry baffled paleontologists for decades. Was it a plant eater with carnivorous tendencies, a scavenger cleverly adapted to a varied diet? Or did it use those bizarre teeth for entirely different reasons, perhaps involving defense or social display? Fossils show that these teeth changed shape and size as the animal aged, adding yet another layer of biological mystery to its already puzzling face. Despite its relatively small size, no longer than a medium-sized dog, Heterodontosaurus was not some plodding forager. It was built like a high-performance machine, its hind limbs long and springy, with bones shaped for rapid, sustained movement across broken terrain. Its tail, stiffened by bundles of tendons, acted as a balancing rod to help it maintain equilibrium during sharp turns and sudden bursts of acceleration. When startled, it could launch itself forward in a stiff-legged gallop that more resembled a spring-loaded trot than a run. Its front limbs, by contrast, were shorter and more delicate, but surprisingly flexible. They ended in small hands capable of grasping, which may have allowed it to manipulate food, scratch at bark for lichen, or even dig shallow burrows. In full motion, it resembled a two-legged deer zipping across fern-filled valleys, its head jerking slightly with each bounding stride. But if Heterodontosaurus ran like a deer, it chewed like a contradiction. The back teeth were arranged into compact shearing batteries that worked like scissors, slicing plant material with smooth precision. But right at the front, a pair of curved fang-like teeth protruded downward from the upper jaw. In some individuals, these tusk-like structures were exaggerated, suggesting they may have played a role in courtship or combat rather than feeding. The lower jaw featured a horn-covered beak that gripped and cropped vegetation like a pair of secateurs. Altogether, the dental toolkit was bewildering. It's been theorized that Heterodontosaurus may have occasionally eaten insects or small prey when plants were scarce, though evidence for omnivory remains ambiguous. The truth may be that those canines were more about intimidation, used to face off with rivals or deter predators, than any real predatory behavior. Behaviorally, Heterodontosaurus may have been a complex little trotter, living in small family groups or loose bands that moved together across the floodplains. Trackways preserved in ancient silts show multiple parallel paths from individuals of similar size, suggesting they may have traveled in synchronized movement. These trotting herds would have kept a careful watch for predatory crocodilians and early theropods, darting into low underbrush or ducking behind boulders when danger drew near. The long legs and compact body allowed for nimble evasive action, with one burst of speed enough to carry it to safety, while its odd teeth may have provided a last-ditch deterrent if cornered. There is even speculation that the species engaged in mutual grooming or complex communication, possibly using chirps or tail flicks, though such ideas remain speculative. The skull of Heterodontosaurus tells yet more of its story. Unlike many of its larger relatives, its cranium was compact and steeply domed, with deep-set sockets housing relatively large eyes. This head shape gave it a keen forward gaze, and the potential for stereoscopic vision, ideal for spotting both food and threats in tangled underbrush. The nasal passages were elaborate and suggest the possibility of complex vocalization, giving rise to theories that Heterodontosaurus could have used sound to coordinate group movement or attract mates. These adaptations, combined with its limb agility and odd dentition, paint the picture of a highly specialized animal that trotted confidently through a dangerous world, alert and adaptable in equal measure. The environments Heterodontosaurus inhabited were no less fascinating. The early Jurassic of what is now South Africa was a mosaic of dry seasonal rivers, conifer forests and sprawling fern meadows. Fires were frequent, and ash from distant volcanoes sometimes drifted over the plains, changing the chemistry of the soil and affecting the plants Heterodontosaurus fed on. To cope with this, it may have adjusted its diet seasonally, switching from soft shoots in wetter months to tougher leaves and seeds when the dry season set in. Its ability to process food efficiently gave it a competitive edge in these shifting landscapes. Some even propose that Heterodontosaurus may have played a key role in dispersing plant seeds through its droppings, acting as one of the earliest examples of a co-evolutionary relationship between dinosaur and flora. Preserved specimens of Heterodontosaurus also show signs of filament-like body coverings, which may have functioned as primitive feathers or insulating bristles. If so, this would make it one of the earliest dinosaurs known to possess feather-like structures, potentially placing it at a pivotal point in the evolution of warm-bloodedness and thermoregulation in dinosaurs. These quill-like projections may have also served in visual signaling or even mating displays, their patterns differing between sexes or individuals. Imagine a trotting Heterodontosaurus, its stiff tail raised like a banner, head bobbing, fangs gleaming, and a row of feather-like bristles catching the morning sun as it skipped lightly across the veldt. This was no lizard-shaped relic. It was a dynamic, feathered actor in an ecosystem that pulsed with life and transformation. More than just a curiosity, Heterodontosaurus represents a convergence of ancient and modern traits. It bridged the gap between the primitive lizard-hipped ancestors of the Triassic and the more advanced ornithischians that would later diversify into massive herds. Its forelimbs show both grasping potential and a closeness to the structures that would evolve into more bird-like limbs in later species. Its teeth whisper of omnivorous versatility, even as its body shouted herb. Its bristles hint at warmth and display, while its trot hinted at strategy and kinship. Every fossil fragment tells the same tale, an animal far more complicated than it appears. In the fossil record, Heterodontosaurus is a trotting ghost preserved not just in bones, but in footprints, burrows, and even preserved gut contents. It teaches us that not all dinosaurs roared or rampaged, some trotted. Some solved their world with clever mouths and nimble legs. Some thrived not because they were the biggest or strongest, but because they were adaptable, strange, and fast. And in that swift-legged little herbivore with mismatched teeth and bristled flanks, we glimpse the delicate artistry of evolution in motion. Part 22. Orodromeus Sprint. Orodromeus, often overshadowed by its larger and more flamboyant Cretaceous neighbors, was a creature that made a legacy not through size or strength, but through speed, stealth, and one of the most fascinating behavioral adaptations in the dinosaur world. This lithe herbivore roamed what is now Montana some 75 million years ago, navigating a rugged world where predators like Troodon and Beipiaosaurus stalked the ancient forests and floodplains. Its very name means mountain runner, and that moniker may be more literal than symbolic. With slender hind legs sculpted for high-velocity escapes and a lightweight frame no larger than a modern-day gazelle, Orodromeus appears to have thrived in the open, windswept habitats of the late Cretaceous by relying on explosive acceleration and clever maneuverability rather than confrontation or defense. But behind the sprint lies something more elusive, a life shaped by tunnels, by burrows, by habits hidden in the soil, where its legacy was not written in fossilized skulls, but in nests cradled beneath the earth. The idea of a burrowing dinosaur may once have sounded like science fiction, but Orodromeus has forced paleontologists to reconsider what early ornithopods were capable of. Evidence found at the Egg Mountain site in Montana suggests a life spent partially underground. Fossilized nests, tiny eggs, and remains of juveniles, all clustered together, hint at a level of parental care that feels startlingly bird-like. And perhaps most intriguing of all, these remains were found in a matrix of sediment that strongly suggests the animals nested in burrows or shallow pits. Such behavior, while common in mammals and birds today, would have provided a major evolutionary advantage to small herbivores living under constant threat. A burrow is a sanctuary, a fortress where the fragile early days of life could unfold with some protection from tooth and claw. It transforms the image of Orodromeus from mere prey item to careful planner, building its world from the soil up. Physiologically, Orodromeus was a masterwork of speed and efficiency. Its body was built like a stretched spring, with long hind limbs equipped with tightly arranged muscles that could release sudden bursts of motion. The tail, stiffened by a lattice of tendons, served as a natural counterbalance, allowing precise balance and abrupt directional changes while sprinting. This tail may have swayed like a tightrope walker's bar as the dinosaur darted through ferns and brush, avoiding detection and escape routes being cut off by predators. Its head, narrow and streamlined, ended in a beak suited to cropping low vegetation, and its large eyes imply excellent vision, perhaps even nocturnal tendency. This visual acuity, paired with its ability to bolt at the first hint of trouble, positioned Orodromeus as one of the most elusive creatures in its environment, rarely caught and even more rarely fossilized in pristine condition. The mystery deepens when considering its social behavior. Fossil evidence has uncovered multiple Orodromeus individuals preserved close together, suggesting that this was not a solitary runner, but a cooperative, possibly even communal animal. Small herds may have roamed the upland environments together, providing a network of eyes and ears to detect danger. These groups may have shared burrowing zones or rotated guarding duties at nesting sites, an arrangement reminiscent of modern meerkats or prairie dogs. That level of social sophistication, hinted at by clustered fossil remains, paints a picture far more complex than the solitary forager image, many early dinosaurs are boxed into. It also suggests that the cognitive capabilities of Orodromeus may have been greater than previously imagined, supporting a behavioral repertoire that included warning calls, coordinated fleeing, and possibly even territorial defense of shared burrow clusters. The egg sites themselves open another avenue of intrigue. The presence of both adults and juveniles, all found in the same deposits, indicates that Orodromeus may have engaged in extended parental care, a trait still relatively rare in the dinosaur fossil record. Hatchlings remained in the nests long enough to fossilize in place, rather than dispersing immediately after hatching. This defies the assumptions that most small dinosaurs were precocial, born fully mobile and independent. Instead, it suggests a dynamic closer to modern birds, where food was brought to the young or the juveniles remained in a protective chamber until they reached a critical stage of growth. This kind of behavioral complexity has only recently been understood in non-avian dinosaurs and adds significant depth to how these creatures should be seen, not as mere stepping stones to birds, but as creatures already possessing layers of survival strategies long before feathers spread across their bones. Orodromeus also serves as a fascinating lens through which to view late Cretaceous ecosystems. While giant herbivores like Hadrosaurs thundered through open floodplains and ceratopsians locked horns in confrontations, Orodromeus occupied the quieter, subtle roles, the edge habitats, the underground refuges, the margins of visibility. It was not the star of the scene, but the unsung specialist. It filled the vital niche of low-level grazer and seed distributor, and in doing so supported the very foundation of the ecosystem's plant life. Its droppings may have seeded forests, and its burrowing aerated the soil, similar to what rabbits or moles do today. Such roles are easily forgotten, but they are crucial. The life of Orodromeus was one of intricate interaction, both with the land and its fellow fauna, proving that not all evolutionary triumphs are measured in size or teeth. But the tale of Orodromeus also carries an eerie postscript. Despite its abundance in Montana's fossil layers, many of the earliest eggs once attributed to it were later reassigned to another enigmatic dinosaur, Troodon, the intelligent predator with bird-like features. This taxonomic twist has left paleontologists re-examining what they thought they knew. Were the nests originally found truly Orodromeus burrows, or did these quick-footed herbivores simply share the land with another burrower? The overlap between the two species' fossil ranges has sparked theories about ecological interactions between prey and predator that were closer and more personal than previously suspected. Perhaps Troodon preyed specifically on Orodromeus hatchlings, or perhaps the two species, both potentially burrowing and highly active, shared strategies, habitats, or even evolved in response to each other's presence in an ancient game of subterranean chess. Finally, the broader family that Orodromeus belonged to, the Hypsilophodonts, remain one of the great ghost lineages of dinosaur history. Once believed to be a neat group of small bipedal herbivores, this classification has since splintered under closer scrutiny. Orodromeus may not sit neatly within that old category, but could instead belong to an entirely different, deeper lineage that's still being worked out. Its anatomical features are a puzzle of basal and advanced traits. It's primitive in its hip structure, yet surprisingly derived in its skull and limb proportions. It has become a keystone species in debates over dinosaur phylogeny, forcing scientists to question the simplistic trees that once adorned textbooks. It stands like a shadowy courier from deep time, holding a message that the past is always more tangled, more layered, and more alive than first assumed. Orodromeus sprints not just through the ancient Cretaceous undergrowth, but across the landscape of paleontological thought itself. In its beak and bones are secrets about burrowing, parenting, vision, speed, and perhaps even community. It is a dinosaur of the margins, a quiet innovator whose legacy hides not in ferocity but in finesse. It reminds us that while thunder lizards may have ruled the skyline, it was often the quiet runners in the grass who changed the world from the roots up. Part 23. Lesothosaurus Rush. Lesothosaurus, often called one of the earliest known true ornithischian dinosaurs, holds a key position in the vast, tangled ancestry of plant-eating dinosaurs. It was small, nimble, and deceptively simple in appearance, but its significance stretches much deeper into the story of dinosaur evolution. Discovered in the highlands of what is now Lesotho in southern Africa, this lightly built creature darted through the semi-arid terrain of the early Jurassic, approximately 200 million years ago. It was a time when the supercontinent Pangaea was still beginning its slow split, and southern Africa sat closer to the South Pole than it does today. Lesothosaurus moved quickly through an environment that was both sparse and filled with threats, ranging from predatory theropods to sudden climatic shifts. Despite its modest size, barely reaching the hip of an average adult human, this creature was a master of survival, a living blueprint for a lineage that would one day lead to armored stegosaurs, horned ceratopsians, and the massive duck-billed Hadrosaurus. What makes Lesothosaurus particularly striking is its anatomy, which seems to straddle the line between old and new. It had a triangular skull lined with a beak-like snout, ideal for cropping vegetation, yet its teeth suggest a mixed diet. The front of its jaws were toothless, and behind that came small leaf-shaped teeth, likely suited for slicing through soft plant matter. However, their lack of complex grinding surfaces has led to debate about whether it was strictly herbivorous. Some paleontologists believe it may have been an opportunistic omnivore, nibbling on insects or carrion when plant life was scarce. This ambiguity makes Lesothosaurus all the more fascinating, a living question mark standing at the crossroads between primitive Saurischian ancestors and the highly specialized herbivores that would come much later. Its lightweight bones and long hind legs hint at a life lived at high speed, relying on quick bursts of movement to escape the jaws of larger carnivores or to navigate the rocky terrain of its Jurassic homeland. Fossils of Lesothosaurus have been found in ancient rock formations that preserve a world in flux. The sedimentary layers of the Elliott Formation in southern Africa tell a story of rivers, seasonal droughts, and sudden flood. Within these layers, the fossils of Lesothosaurus are often found alongside the remains of early theropods, like Beipiaosaurus, whose sharp teeth and fast limbs made it a top predator of the time. This coexistence implies a high-stakes ecological dynamic. Lesothosaurus, with its large eyes and lightweight frame, may have relied on keen eyesight and quick reflexes to survive. There's even speculation that it may have been crepuscular, active in the dawn and dusk hours when the light was low but visibility was just enough to forage without becoming easy prey. Its presence in such a challenging environment suggests a level of adaptability that would serve its descendants well in the changing landscapes of the Mesozoic. In a landscape dominated by cycads, ferns, and early conifers, Lesothosaurus would have foraged at ground level, perhaps feeding in short bursts before darting off to the next sheltered area. It likely moved in small groups, though fossil evidence for this is still limited. Such group behavior would make sense, offering better protection through numbers and increasing the likelihood of spotting danger early. In the still developing social world of dinosaurs, even rudimentary flocking could represent a significant evolutionary step. Living in loosely organized groups may have also aided in mating rituals or in the care of offspring, though no nests or eggs directly linked to Lesothosaurus have yet been uncovered. Still, the clues embedded in its bones point toward a creature more advanced than its size or simplicity might suggest a silent innovator that laid the groundwork for the social and dietary complexities that ornithischians would one day embrace on a global scale. Lesothosaurus also presents a puzzle in the fossil record. For decades, it was a cornerstone in the discussion of early dinosaur evolution, often cited as a classic example of a basal ornithischian. Yet newer discoveries and cladistic analyses have thrown its position into question. Some researchers argue that it doesn't belong within the main ornithischian group at all, suggesting it may instead represent a side branch or even a primitive offshoot predating the full split of the dinosaur family tree. If this is true, then Lesothosaurus becomes even more important, not just a starting point for plant-eating dinosaurs, but a glimpse into what dinosaurs looked like just before that pivotal evolutionary leap occurred. It might be an evolutionary ghost, an echo of a lineage that almost made it, but was soon eclipsed by its more successful relatives. This ambiguity keeps paleontologists returning to its fossil sites, hoping that a better skull or a more complete skeleton might finally settle the debate. The surrounding landscape where Lesothosaurus once lived would have been unlike today's dry, mountainous Lesotho. During the early Jurassic, it was a vast expanse of floodplains and braided rivers that occasionally burst their banks and reshaped the land in violent surges. Ashfalls from distant volcanic eruptions periodically blanketed the region, preserving the bones of the fallen in fine-grained sediment. Some of the best Lesothosaurus fossils have come from such ash layers, their fragile frames captured in exquisite detail. These bones, often found jumbled with others, paint a picture not just of individuals, but of ecosystems frozen in time. Occasionally, the same beds yield fossilized footprints, small, three-toed impressions that may belong to Lesothosaurus or one of its close relatives. These trace fossils hint at behavior, running, foraging, possibly even interacting with other species in complex, unknowable ways that still leave their marks across the stone canvas of ancient southern Africa. Its bones suggest more than speed. They suggest precision. The way Lesothosaurus balanced on two slender legs, the angle of its tail, and the lightweight structure of its vertebrae all indicate an animal that had to make split-second decisions in an unpredictable world. One wrong move meant death. This was no lumbering grazer, but a creature that likely ran with the silence of a hare and the urgency of a hunted animal. There's something almost mammalian in its form and function, even though it came from a lineage that would never walk the evolutionary road toward warm blood or fur. The hollowed bones and long limbs tell a story of necessity of evolution sculpting a creature not for dominance, but for survival through speed, through lightness, through knowing when to run and where to hide. Despite its evolutionary uncertainties, Lesothosaurus continues to be a critical piece of the early Jurassic puzzle. It is a reference point, a node of comparison, for every new small dinosaur that emerges from similarly aged rocks around the world. Its name appears again and again in scientific papers, always tethered to questions about origin, diet, posture, and locomotion. Yet for all that attention, it remains in many ways an enigma. No complete skeleton has ever been found. Its skin texture, coloration, and behavior can only be inferred, leaving room for both caution and imagination. Did it flash bright colors to warn others of danger? Did it vibrate the ground with its feet, like some modern lizards do, or was it quieter still, slipping between the legs of giants and leaving almost no mark at all? In the end, Lesothosaurus is not remembered for its dominance or its size, but for its speed, its adaptability, and its mystery. It is a dinosaur of beginnings, perched on the brink of one of evolution's greatest radiations. It is both a survivor and a messenger from a world that was still shaping what it meant to be a dinosaur. In the wind-blasted hills of Lesotho, its bones continue to speak, not loudly, but clearly to anyone who's willing to listen. It reminds us that sometimes the most important revolutions begin not with roars or battles, but with a quiet rush across ancient soil. Part 24. Gasosaurus Hustle. Gasosaurus, despite its snappy name and dynamic reputation, is one of those shadowy figures that seems to dart in and out of the fossil record like a half-remembered dream of the Middle Jurassic. Found in the Dishampu Formation of China and named after the gas company that funded the dig, this theropod dinosaur has sparked as much curiosity as it has confusion. It lived approximately 65 million years ago during a relatively obscure window in dinosaur evolution, a stretch of time less populated by headline-grabbing giants and more filled with transitional, elusive forms that bridge gaps between well-known lineages. Gasosaurus was roughly the size of a large wolf or small horse, with estimates putting it at around 3.5 to 4 meters in length. But beyond size, its exact nature is still under active debate. Is it a primitive member of the mighty Tetaneuron lineage, which includes Allosaurus and eventually birds, or is it something more unique, a local branch off the main evolutionary tree that didn't quite make it to the top? These uncertainties make Gasosaurus an emblem of prehistoric ambiguity, a sprinting silhouette against the foggy backdrop of time. The skeletal remains of Gasosaurus are incomplete, especially in the skull, which has been a major roadblock for paleontologists trying to pin down its relationship. Without the telltale architecture of the face and jaw, researchers have had to rely on the preserved parts of its spine, limbs, and pelvis to deduce its habits and affinity. What we do have suggests an animal built for speed and agility, with strong hind limbs and a long, counterbalancing tail, traits common in theropods that relied on quick movement either to hunt or evade. Its arms were relatively short, possibly echoing the same evolutionary pressures that later shrank the arms of ebolisaurids and tyrannosaurs. Though not heavily built or equipped with terrifying weaponry, Gasosaurus appears to have been an opportunistic predator or perhaps a swift scavenger, navigating the dynamic landscapes of prehistoric Sichuan province, where fern prairies, conifer groves, and steaming wetlands offered a mosaic of ecological niches. What makes Gasosaurus particularly compelling is its place in a fossil-rich region that has yielded a tapestry of contemporaneous species. It shared its habitat with other notable dinosaurs, such as the stegosaur Wyangosaurus and the long-necked sauropod Shunosaurus. This means that Gasosaurus lived in a biome bustling with a diversity of herbivores, creating ample opportunities for hunting or scavenging. It wasn't the top predator in the area, but perhaps that made it more versatile. In ecosystems like this, being second tier was no disadvantage. The scavengers often outlast the apex hunters. With less competition at the very top, a dinosaur like Gasosaurus could exploit smaller prey and the leftovers of kills made by larger carnivores. It might have lurked at the edges of larger feeding frenzies, darting in to snap up pieces before bolting away again, a behavior seen in many modern carnivores that live in the shadows of bigger beasts. The fragmentary nature of the Gasosaurus fossils has invited a swirling debate about its classification. Some researchers suggest it might belong to the Carnosauria, a group that includes brawny hunters like Allosaurus and Sinraptor, while others see traits in its hip and leg bones that tie it more closely to the Coelophysis, the group that would eventually give rise to the most diverse collection of theropods, including the ancestors of modern birds. If it does indeed fall closer to the Coelophysis, Gasosaurus could represent an early experiment in body design, testing out the blueprint that would be endlessly refined through the Cretaceous. It is this uncertainty that makes it so alluring. Every time new theropods are discovered in the same strata, the puzzle reshuffles, and Gasosaurus shifts slightly in the grand diagram of life, always close to something important but never fully pinned down. The world Geysosaurus knew was not the violent volcanic wasteland often depicted in pop culture, but a vibrant, wet and diverse setting where rivers meandered through lush lowlands and volcanic ash periodically carpeted the terrain. The fossil beds suggest a tropical or subtropical climate, with dense plant life and a web of competition and cooperation among animals both great and small. In such an environment, speed wasn't just helpful, it was vital. Geysosaurus, with its narrow hips and slender build, might have used bursts of high velocity to chase down skittering lizards, primitive mammals, or injured juveniles from larger species. Alternatively, it may have rushed in to steal portions of meat, then disappeared into the thickets before drawing the ire of more dominant predators. This kind of hit-and-run strategy doesn't leave behind dramatic fossil evidence, but it does help explain why so many of these quick-bodied, medium-sized theropods appear sporadically in the fossil record like thieves of time, rarely caught in the act. Despite the limited fossils, the Deshanpu Formation has offered one tantalizing clue about the daily life of Geysosaurus: the structure of the sediment layers. These layers show signs of sudden environmental upheaval, flooding events, ash falls, and changes in river pattern. It's possible that Geysosaurus and its contemporaries lived in a landscape that was in constant motion, where stability was fleeting and adaptability was the only consistent rule. In such a place, evolution would favor those who could keep moving, keep adjusting, and never become too specialized. Geysosaurus may have thrived on that edge, built not to dominate a single niche, but to survive in the cracks between others. Its hustle wasn't just physical, it was evolutionary, a gamble that didn't pay off with a long-lasting lineage, but that may have influenced those that did. In many ways, Geysosaurus reflects a theme that occurs again and again in paleontology: the importance of transitional forms. These animals often don't get the spotlight. They're not the first of their kind, or the largest or the most dramatic, but they are the bridges, the test models, the prototypes that evolution uses to feel out the future. Geysosaurus is one of those. It might not have been flashy, but it was functional, fast, and perfectly adapted to its moment in time. Like so many small to medium theropods of the Middle Jurassic, its lineage may have been short-lived, but its story helps fill in the gaps between more well-known creatures. And sometimes, the shadows tell more about the world than the figures who stand in the center of the stage. There's a certain irony in the name Geysosaurus, a moniker that sounds almost comical to modern ears, yet beneath that label lies a creature full of nuance, uncertainty, and quiet importance. Though it lacks the grandeur of a Tyrannosaurus or the mystique of a Velociraptor, Geysosaurus holds its own by virtue of what it represents: movement, adaptation, and survival during a phase of life on Earth that remains poorly understood. With so few fossils, one might think its story is limited, but sometimes the faintest traces offer the clearest echoes of prehistoric reality. In Geysosaurus, we see the unpolished hustle of evolution, a creature caught in the act of becoming something more. Whether a failed experiment or an overlooked success, it raced across its muddy world with purpose, part of a lineage always sprinting toward the future. So much about Geysosaurus is about what isn't known. And yet, those very absences shape a hauntingly beautiful narrative. It is the kind of dinosaur that hints more than it tells, suggesting stories locked in stone, waiting for the right discovery to open them. Perhaps somewhere in the layered beds of central China, a complete skull lies undisturbed, its serrated teeth and jawline finally ready to answer the questions its partial skeleton has kept alive for decades. Until then, Geysosaurus remains in motion, in concept if not in flesh, always running just ahead of certainty, always elusive, always worth chasing.